LabCorp and Quest are the two biggest labs. When you go to your doctor and say, hey, doc, I think my testosterone's low, will you check it? He's going to just check a total testosterone typically. LabCorp and Quest say that if your testosterone is above 249, that you are normal. If a guy's got a total testosterone of 251, his doctor says, oh no, your testosterone's fine. You got no problem.
Wow.
You imagine how many millions of men are out there running around with a testosterone under 300. Now, back 10 years ago, the lab cutoff was 350. When testosterone was starting to get popular, then all of a sudden it was 300. Now it's 249. Did men evolve and change? And now used to under 350 was bad. Now it's under 250. What's going on? Why would a society want all these low testosterone men? I can think of some people who would love it if all men had a testosterone of 250 and lived on rice and beans. They're, high blood sugar, high insulin, high levels of inflammation, low testosterone. You're going to be able to drag your ass to work, half-ass do your job, drag yourself home and get in the recliner.
Well, Dr. Ken Berry, thanks for coming all the way out here.
It's a pleasure, man.
It's great to be sitting with a fellow Tennessean. I had no idea.
Absolutely. I did not know either.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
So we should definitely start with your background because we do talk to some health people on the show, but it's not our main avenue. So I'd love to hear about your background, both as a family medicine specialist and then your pathway into carnivory.
Yeah. So I was classically trained at a state university in Memphis, did my undergraduate at MTSU, and then went to the UT Health Science Center in Memphis, got my medical degree, and then did a residency in family medicine at St. Francis in Memphis, Tennessee. And started out, I had no desire to have a clinic and be a clinic doctor. I wanted to be an emergency doctor. And in Tennessee, the way the law is written, if you're family medicine, you've seen it all. You've delivered babies, you've assisted taking out gallbladders, you've reset bones. And so you can work in the smaller emergency rooms there. And that was 100% my goal. But I kept having patients in the ER say, I like you, doc. You should start a clinic. And, doctors tend to think that patients are blowing smoke. That's just, that's a common thing. But after about the 500th person said that, I'm like, well, maybe I should start a little clinic. And so I did and saw 8 people the first day, 20 the second day, and never less than that for the next 20 years until the clinic burned down.
Incredible. Wow.
Yeah, it went crazy.
The clinic burned down?
Yeah. Big story behind that, but you guys might not want to go there today.
Okay, well, that's super interesting. So what made you want to be a doctor in the first place?
So grew up watching MASH and Trapper John, MD, and Quincy, and just from a very young age wanted to be a doctor. But then when puberty hit, I started having these terrible migraines. And I thought, well, there's no way I can be a doctor. They never sleep. And also terrible allergies, all these other things. And so, but then I went to college, and I actually was in Temple Terrace, Florida for a year at college, living in a dorm situation, and it was so filthy. And, now looking back, I understand why, but it's like all that stuff stopped bothering me because I never slept in college, and it was filthy, and I was, and so it's like my body just adapted and said, okay, we can do this. And so then when I realized, I can lose sleep and I can not have a chronically stopped up nose, I guess I'll try to go to med school. So I went to X-ray tech school first. That's a 2-year degree, just to make sure I could handle the blood and guts and not lose it, when somebody came in with the bone sticking out. And that went really well. And I'm like, I'm going to medical school. And so I'm the first of my family to ever, to my knowledge, to ever get a postgraduate degree. There are no doctors in my family. There are no PhDs, MDs, anything above a bachelor's back 10 generations. There's just, I'm the first one.
Good on you.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's to my credit or my environment. I'm not sure, but I always took it very seriously. Yeah. That this is not a joke. This is not a game. This is very important that I do a good job at this.
Absolutely.
How much did you learn about nutrition in medical school?
I was actually fortunate. We actually did have a half a semester, 1 day a week, our second year of medical school. And so I did get some nutrition training in medical school, which about 2/3 currently don't get any. But
Crazy.
it's an important but here. 99% of that was about how do you keep nutrition going in somebody who's been in a house fire and has third-degree burns over 80% of their body. How did somebody, fell off the house and smashed their face? How are you going to feed them intravenously? And so 99% of that was calculating nutrition, macros, and vitamins and minerals for people who'd been severely injured and they're in the burn unit or the ICU. Almost none of it was how do you feed the normal human in a human environment?
Right.
Virtually none of it. And really the only tidbit of knowledge I got about how should normal people eat is our nutrition professor was from New Zealand. And he was a type 1 diabetic, and he told us at least once a day how he ate lots of whole wheat pasta to control his type 1 diabetes.
Oh, shit.
I still can visualize him saying, because I thought, I'm a country boy, and he's
What the hell's
like,
pasta?
Pasta? What? And so I'm like, so he eats lots of noodles to control his type 1 diabetes, and that was the only messaging I got with regards to what should normal people out in society eat.
Yeah, it really seems like a glaring blind spot in modern medicine that I don't know a lot about this, but I have an autoimmune condition. And when I got diagnosed with that, they're like, we don't know what causes it. There's no cure. You just treat the symptoms forever.
Yeah.
I was like, that answer is unacceptable. Like, I've got to figure something else out. Yeah. And it turns out there are, we don't know maybe directly what causes it, but it's tied to gut issues, microbiome, et cetera. So
Well, I think that's an important point, and that's a point I really want people to think about. It would be like if somebody trained as a mechanic but had no idea about what gas or what oil to put in different engines. Like it's insanity that doctors are not taught about the very thing that builds your body and brain.
Yeah.
The food, it's not even discussed. And so after that half semester class, my second year in medical school, nutrition was literally not discussed again, except in the very limited context of somebody with severe diabetes or something like that. There was just no mention of nutrition in my third and fourth year of med school. And then in the 2 years, I did an accelerated family medicine residency. So typically that's 3 years, but I was able to do it in 2. You combine your senior year with your intern year. And it was rough, but I got through it. But literally no resident, nobody ever talked about nutrition. The one thing I got when I was in residency was I was working on the obstetrics ward. I was doing my month of obstetrics. And the chief resident,
what is
that, so that's delivering babies.
Okay.
Right?
Got it.
And so the typical woman comes in, if she's going to have a vaginal delivery, back then she would stay for 48 hours. And so we would do 24 hours of call. And then the next morning post-call is when we would circumcise all the little boys. So think about that. Think that through. We'd slept maybe 30 minutes, and then we would go circumcise all the boys. Yeah, true story. But then we would go round on all the moms, and if they'd been there, if that was their second day, we'd discharge them. And so the chief resident said, now don't forget all the moms who are exclusively breastfeeding, we have to prescribe them vitamin D drops. And I'm like, why? My middle name is Y, by the way. And he said, because women don't make enough vitamin D in their breast milk. The baby will get rickets if you don't do that. Now, I've always been a bit of a contrarian and a bit iconoclastic. And I was like, how are we not extinct as a species?
Great question.
If human females don't put vitamin D in their breast milk, because that's an essential vitamin, you'll get very severe disease, not just of your bones, but other things too. And so I did that, but I filed that away because in residency you have no time to learn. You just show up and do. And I'm like, I need to look into that. That sounds ridiculous, but I mean, he's a smart guy. He knows all this other stuff. And then later I did look into that, and that was one of the very first inklings I had back then that maybe there's lots of stuff we don't know about human nutrition and about human adaptation and evolve, just how we develop. Because this, you got to understand, this guy, he was going for double boarded. He was med peds, so he was going to be board certified in both medicine and pediatrics, and he was just running this rotation for us. Very intelligent guy, very smart guy, very nice guy, but he literally said that out loud with a straight face.
Yeah.
Human females do not put vitamin D in their breast milk. And I was like, that broke my brain when he said that. And then realized I'd slept 30 minutes.
Yeah.
We were, and I'm like, I got to look into that. And so that was kind of the very first thing that made me go, maybe there's other stuff that this very intelligent, well-meaning doctor is telling me that's also not true.
Yeah, that's like, when you're young, especially, right, we look up to those authority figures. We think they have it all figured out. And then the older you get, the more you realize we're all just figuring it out as we go. What, you did look into that, I assume, ultimately.
Absolutely.
Like what, so what's going on there? And I guess he was probably just parroting something he heard.
And so that's 99% of medical school and residency is parroting.
Yeah.
Whatever the old guy with gray hair says trickles down to the first year medical student, eventually through the chief resident, the second and third year resident, the intern, and the older medical students. It's all trickle down medical education. And so I did look into that after probably 2 years in private practice. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I'm going to look into that. So there was actually a research study done by a very intelligent doctor in North Carolina who also thought, that sounds crazy. That can't be right. So she did a little experiment. And when she gave moms 6,000 IUs of vitamin D a day, which is about how much you would make yourself if you were outside in the sun, minimally clothed, they put the absolute perfect amount of vitamin D in their breast milk. And so now if you're staying indoors 99% of the time and you're eating the average junk diet, you probably need the vitamin D drops. But if you're living a proper human life, you're making plenty of vitamin D, but he did not know that. He didn't preface it with, now, most of these women stay inside all day. None of that. He just said, women do not put vitamin D in their breast milk.
Wow.
So he was completely ignorant. This guy that I looked up to, and he was super smart. He did not know that.
Crazy.
Is 6,000 IUs of vitamin D a day your general recommendation for any adult human?
Well, and so don't get hung up on numbers. Anywhere between 5 and 10,000, the average woman is going to put enough vitamin D in her breast milk.
Yeah, my wife is breastfeeding our 2-month-old son right now, and I think she's taking 4,000 IUs. But I've been telling her, you got to get out in the sun more, sweetheart.
So 4,000 IUs a day plus a good amount of sunlight, she's going to be fine. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
What's with the chronic deficiency in vitamin D levels? I mean, I'm a guy that tries to get an hour plus of sun a day. I've never got my vitamin D levels in range. Right. And they're always, and then they say when you supplement, it doesn't actually help that much, and it's just kind of giving you good test results. So what's going on?
I have the
there?
same issue.
Yeah. So it's low vitamin D levels are ubiquitous in modern society. And I think that means that there's more to the story that we don't know, because I'm like you. Even if I get 6 hours a day of sunlight, which I do in the summer in Tennessee on the farm, I maybe get it up to 35, 40 maybe, but I want mine to be between 50 and 100 because all the research shows that that's the sweet spot. Tons of research in Europe, especially in the Nordic countries, that vitamin D is a big deal, especially for a developing little brain and body. Big deal. Autoimmune conditions directly associated with low vitamin D levels. Lots of things, not just rickets, but many things. And so I'm the same way. I take about 5,000 IUs a day. And in part, I am treating my lab results, right? That's what I'm doing. But at the same time, I try to eat vitamin D-rich foods, which I have a YouTube video about the 7 red, because I try to always make a video about every vitamin and mineral, just to say, because I don't want people to be taking a big stack of supplements. Obviously, that's not ancestrally appropriate.
Of course.
Nobody had access to a GNC
Yeah.
10,000 years ago, right? So I think there's more to the story. I think there's also some lifestyle and some other things, and maybe some food things that we haven't discovered yet
Yeah.
that will get your vitamin D up there, because nobody 10,000 years ago had a vitamin D of 15 or 20.
Right.
You would be culled from the tribe within months, if not a year or two.
So is this, I mean, possibly a microplastics, artificial light, like combination of all these modern conveniences?
Yeah. Like so many things in medicine and nutrition, it's most likely multifactorial.
Yeah.
Meaning multiple causes that all add up to that number you see on your lab report.
Yeah.
Are there microorganisms in the gut that help with vitamin D?
The microbiome. So probably that's related. And sometimes when I say probably in relation to the microbiome, people assume, oh, he must not know much about the microbiome. He just said probably. Wow. But that's actually the only honest opinion that anybody can have about the microbiome. Sure. We currently, I like to say, we don't know shit about shit.
Yeah, we don't. It's so true.
Literally don't.
So
so
true.
Anybody, this is very important for people to hear, anybody that's trying to sell you a supplement stack, anything like, oh, this is going to maximize your microbiome, we don't even know which bacteria should be there. Also, what about the viral biome and the fungal biome? Because you have those too. Nobody talks about that. It's only the bacteria they want to talk about, because that's what you can grow in a vat really easily. And so they can come up with a product to profit from. But currently nobody knows. But most likely, yes. Most likely there is a microbiome component to this that can reap much higher levels of vitamin D from the diet if you have the right ratios or the right bug. Nobody knows the answer to the microbiome question currently, and anybody that says that is either ignorant or nefarious. There is no in between. If you've studied the microbiome, you admit your ignorance right up front.
Right. Yeah. Well, not that I've done a deep study on it, but it does exactly like you said. No one really knows. The other term, I got this from Saladino that was very useful. Because even if you know some things about the microbiome, there's also this concept of bio-individuality, that we're all a little bit different. We've all got our own, history and genetics and all these things. And so what works for me might not work for you, and vice versa. And so given that deep situation of like humility towards the microbiome, what, as someone who's been trying to heal leaky gut for a long time, fortunately, I've had a lot of success recently with peptides, actually, that have helped my leaky gut symptoms. What should we be doing, thinking about? Like, how can we try to get a healthy microbiome given all of our ignorance?
So I think that, like most things in the human organism, it is a self-healing organism whose baseline setting is good optimal health. Only to the degree to which you punish it, abuse it, injure it with an improper diet and an improper lifestyle, that's the degree to which not only you, but your microbiome is going to suffer. And so you can imagine that the average kid, they're going to be on antibiotics at least once a year for an ear or a sinus or something. That's obviously going to adjust the microbiome. But a lot of people get hung up. It's like, oh, I had to take a round of antibiotics. Now my gut bacteria is destroyed. First of all, that's not true. If you still have your appendix is a repository. It's almost like a bacterial library. And so, yes, when you take that round of Cipro or Augmentin, you are decimating your gut microbiome, but it's temporary. Your biome is going to bounce back because you never kill all of any one particular species of bacteria. And this is a message that a lot of people miss. You might decrease the population of that one bacteria by 99%. But bacteria double every 20 minutes on average.
Right.
And so 4 days after you're off the antibiotic, once it's out of let's say 4 days after it's out of your system, because some antibiotics have a 72-hour half-life. Once it's out of your system, your gut bacteria go right back at it.
Yeah.
And so within days after it's out of your system, your gut bacteria is back to normal again. And we see this in the symptoms. After, powerful antibiotics, you'll have gut issues for a few days, and then it just kind of goes back to normal for the vast majority of people. But one concept that's very important for everything we talk about today is called the normal distribution curve. And you might even want to put a picture of that up just so
bell
people,
curve?
It's like a flat bell curve.
Yeah.
And so that's the individuality of people.
Yeah.
Is that there are some people whose gut microbiome is much more fragile and sensitive. Other people could literally eat rocks and drink gasoline.
Yes.
And their gut is fine.
I've seen this firsthand.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
We all know that
Yeah.
guy, right?
I was in Bali and I got the Bali belly really bad because I'm on the sensitive end. But then like my friends from Mexico and Russia, they had no problems.
Exactly. And so then that's also adaptation.
Yeah.
They've probably been exposed to way more stuff than you have in your life.
Yeah.
Because you and I, even though we're from Tennessee, we're pretty sheltered.
Yeah, I think
really,
so.
in reality. And so when you start thinking about the normal distribution curve, it applies to everything. How much vitamin D you need, how fragile your gut microbiome is, what your macros should be, how much of this you need.
Yeah.
It applies to everything. And so when you're talking about human nutrition and human health, you wind up with this three-dimensional stack of normal distribution curves that basically constitutes one individual person. Because you have to think about their distribution curve for their gut, but for every single vitamin, for every single mineral, for their what did their mom eat when she was pregnant with them? What were they fed the first 3 years of their life? How many epigenetic switches have been flipped? And so it quickly becomes a calculus problem that only a PhD with a very smart AI would ever even be able to comprehend, much less solve. And that's why I went back to kind of first principles. It's like, okay, nobody can ever truly understand this.
Yeah.
And that's true for human physiology. That's true for the microbiome. No human will ever be able to hold this all in their head. Maybe AI will help us at one point. So right now, what do we do? How do we even approach this? And so a lot of people call this the appeal to nature. They act like it's a logical fallacy, but I think it's actually a bedrock principle of a proper human diet is that you go back and say, okay, what did we eat 15,000 years ago? Because obviously that worked.
Right.
And so then there comes a degree of trust. You just have to trust your body and your gut bacteria.
Trusting evolution, ultimately.
Exactly, because that's the thing people don't get, including doctors, is this is the longest continual human experiment on planet Earth by several orders of magnitude. Is the adaptation that we have went through over the last at least 300,000 years as Homo sapiens sapiens.
Yes, that's so good. I want to, there's so many things there, but just to go back to something you said, the appendix is a library of bacteria for the microbiome. I've never heard that. I mean, typically doctors say, "Oh no, take that thing out.
Right.
It's a useless organ." When did you discover that? And tell me more, please.
So years of reading and research and looking into this stuff, and so it became very popular back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s for surgeons to be super arrogant. And they would say things like, that's a vestibular organ. You don't need that. Applying to your appendix, applying to your uterus, applying to your gallbladder, applying to spleen. That's just vestigial. You don't really need that. And so at the drop of the hat, they would take that stuff out.
Crazy.
But my reliance on the adaptation and the ancientness of the human body, my advice is no, don't take that out. Do not let the surgeon take that out unless there's no other option.
Right.
But and still, even in 2026, there are doctors who, if you have the least bit of right upper quadrant stomach pain, let's get that gallbladder out. So, okay, here's an important thing to understand. Back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, when pharmaceuticals were starting to come on the scene, before then, especially in the German literature, there was all this amazing research on anatomy and physiology and nutrition. A lot of it in German. I've had to go through the trouble of getting it translated. But they were looking at all this stuff aggressively back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. But then pharmaceuticals came on board. And now suddenly everybody wants to be the guy that invents that new drug that gets patented that makes whatever $1 million was back in the 1930s. And so every department head, every research organization, every university, they stopped caring about any of the bedrock physiology, any of that. They stopped all that. Now, there's still some research that goes on in all those areas, but it's nothing like it should be. And so my opinion is that the appendix does multiple things that we don't currently know because we basically gave up looking any further when pharmaceuticals came on the scene. Same goes for the gallbladder. We know several things that it does that are quite important, but we don't know the full story, I guarantee you, because we stopped looking at it in the 1940s. Many body organs are like that. So the appendix, if you look at it, there's actually research now that's like, oh man, it looks like your gut seeds the appendix with almost like a library type of situation. And so that then when you take that mega dose of antibiotics, as soon as that's done, your appendix is like, oh, here you go, guys. Here are the books that got burned.
Yeah, that's it right
yeah,
there.
Yeah. And
that's
so
cool.
it's my opinion that the appendix does several other things as well that we currently have no idea about. Same for the gallbladder, same for the spleen, same for all those vestigial organs that humans no longer need.
Vestigial organ. That's more of the parroting, I would assume, right?
100%. Yeah.
There's this. I've heard it put. I forgot who said this, but something like if you and nature are in disagreement, you should just assume nature is right and you're wrong.
Right.
Because
And to the average PhD, that sounds like an appeal to nature. That sounds like a logical fallacy. But it's not if you mean it in the right way and you say it. That's
because that logical fallacy is just saying, like, if someone says, "Oh, it's natural," doesn't mean it's not poisonous, right? Obviously nature produces poisons.
That's the typical
but this
snarky
is kind of a different appeal. You're saying, no, this is evolutionarily, historically what we've done or been. Therefore, don't try to don't intervene unless you said, it's a measure of last resort.
Unless you've proven that you know better. Right. So I'll give you a great example. And I ask this question all the time when I'm speaking, and even 3-year-old children get this right.
Okay.
You've got a pasture with some cows in it. In order for your cows to have their best health, live the happiest life, what should you feed your cows?
Grass.
Yeah. Right? Now, is that an appeal to nature? Or is that an appeal to the 40 million years of adaptation that what we currently call cows has went through? Right, and then plus a small degree of Tennessee country boy common sense.
Yeah,
that's what cows eat. That's probably what they should eat, and that's not an appeal to nature. That's actually a very deep scientific concept. Cows should eat grass. You should feed your cows grass. Now, if you want to maximize the cow's meat potential, then you should put them in a feedlot and feed them grains and other stuff. But they're going to develop gastrointestinal disease. They're going to have to be on multiple medications if you do that to them because it's not healthy for the cow.
Right.
But if you want your cows to just be healthy and happy and have a great life, you feed them grass. That same principle, which is actually a very complicated, complex evolutionary argument, if you think about it, that applies to every mammal on planet Earth up to and including Homo sapiens sapien.
It's so true because, we're all in that co-evolutionary dance with our niche, right? Our environmental niche. And so if cows have been eating it for millions of years, of course, that's what they should continue to eat. Yeah. The older I get, I love actually being a redneck from the South because a lot of these redneck aphorisms I heard growing up start to make more and more sense and contain more and more wisdom because this just sounds to me like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right.
And, the reason a lot of our redneck and hillbilly brothers and sisters say that is because they just don't want to look into it. Yeah. Right. And because
it's worked, right?
It's right. Because if it works, why are you going to fiddle with it?
Yeah.
It's working, leave it alone. But I think this kind of speaks to the arrogance, the ignorant arrogance. That's the most dangerous kind of arrogance. The ignorant arrogance of surgeons and doctors and PhD level people who think they can do better than these millions of years of adaptation.
That's right.
I mean, that you need to be humble. You need to sit down and shut up because you think you can beat that because you're going to make Einstein look like a romper room student if you can do better than millions of years of evolution. You're pretty impressive, and I suspect you're not that impressive. You probably need to sit down and be quiet.
And you're a product of that nature.
Literally, right? You're in the system that you're now claiming to completely understand and be able to manipulate.
Yes, Taleb calls these people IYIs, intellectual yet idiots.
Exactly.
And
and I call it arrogant ignorance.
Yes.
Because you're so arrogant, you don't even realize how ignorant what you just said was.
Yes. Yeah. It is, and well, there's a good crossover here, I think, to fiat economists, because they're the
100%,
same
yeah.
fucking thing, right?
Yep. And so I don't know if you interact with Taleb much, but if you do, please tell him to unblock me.
I'm blocked as well. I'm blocked as well.
You're blocked as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
man.
one of his
Years ago, I
biggest
commented
fans,
he
but-
posted a picture of donuts or something, and I'm like, dude, I really love you. Please stop that, because I want to keep you around for a long time.
Yeah.
You block me immediately.
Yeah.
He's the only one who's gone out of the Bitcoin rabbit hole.
Yeah, he's the only one that I've ever. But I don't know that he was ever fully in or not. I don't know. Yeah, he wrote obviously positively about Bitcoin, but then he had a spat with Saifuddin Ammous. And so I think which is so ironic for a guy who wrote Anti-Fragile. I think his ego is pretty fragile.
Right.
I'd said so. He just was like, who was he doing? He was attacking Lynn Alden, I think,
Really?
on Twitter. I was like, dude, chill, or something. Something very and it
Blocked.
blocked. Yeah.
Wonder how many thousands of people he's got blocked.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty low bar.
Yeah, and it's weird though because it's all so complex. Because I
My
also
tweet
love
was-
blocking people. Like
My tweet was literally, dude, I love you. Stop.
Yeah.
Even that. I want to keep you around, and not
Yeah.
unacceptable.
that was it. Yeah.
Where does this hubris come from? Why do people think that they can change the way we've done things
Isn't
forever?
Isn't that the nature of humanity?
Yeah.
It's the ivory tower thing too, right?
Sure. And so, I mean, every human thinks they're a little smarter than every other species, which is fine. But then you've got this subset of people who have kind of been cloistered, and they're now at Harvard or Yale or Tufts or Loma Linda, and they think, oh, I'm cloistered from even the normal people.
Yeah.
I know so much about this, and the problem is that they do know everything about the modern nutrition research. They've read every article. But I think this is a great time to use the money analogy, which I suspect you and I will use several times today. If you said, man, I'm fascinated by money. I really want to learn all about this. And the only thing that you did was just read all of the monetary theory research for the last 3 years, just memorized it. But you didn't know anything about 1913 or 1944. Or 1971. You just memorized the last 3 to 5 years of monetary theory research.
Oh, dude.
How much would you truly understand money?
Oh my God.
How bad would it be?
They call it modern monetary theory, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But how arrogant would you be that you had done that? You knew every answer to every question that's going to be asked on every test. That exact same thing is happening daily in nutrition and medicine and health. Is you've got these super educated they in no way look at their field circumspectly or historically, and it's my opinion that you can't even begin to understand human nutrition until you've really dug into the archaeology, the anthropology, and the paleoanthropology. You can't even get to first base,
Right.
but you can become a very arrogant, ignorant expert that a lot of people look up to and want to emulate and want to quote you. And that's what we see every day out there on the social media is people like that who have a PhD or two, or they're a PhD MD, and they're just going to tell you what this is the diet, you should eat this.
Yes. Yeah, it is very distasteful. And it's echo chamber like, right? Because they end up just reading economists, they just read each other's papers, as you're saying, right? They're not going to the first principles of, what is money? It's like, no, modern monetary theory, public sector deficit is a private sector surplus. It's like, really? So you just run unprofitable governments and that magically creates wealth for the rest of us? Like, how insane do you have to be to buy that shit?
But that makes sense to you if you have no idea what happened in 13 on Jekyll Island, and you have no idea about Bretton Woods in 44. You have no idea about the Nixon psychosis in 71.
Yeah.
You don't understand any of that, then that makes perfect sense to you. And it also gives you this level of arrogance that you think anybody who would question that must be stupid.
Yes. It's just I do want to talk about this too, because I think metaphors are very important, and it's like mistaking the map for the territory. Like they have a certain system of knowledge that they've used to map reality.
Yep.
But when you get so far away from the reality and you're just in your little map world and you're talking to all your fellow map makers, it's like it loses touch. You lose touch with what's true. What I wanted to ask about this is like, it seems like we have, like we're still operating with kind of materialist, Newtonian, clockwork universe, you know, A causes B, linear causality, billiard ball-like particles. Like we're still kind of stuck in that paradigm a little bit. You know, we've obviously gone past it, right? Even Einstein moved us beyond it. But our medical sciences, even economics, right? They're like, oh, it's a machine. You know, the central bank has to pull a lever and press a button. It's like, what are you fucking talking about? It's not a machine. It's a complex adaptive system.
I can tell you're a student of history just because you said that. Because that's actually you can see that echoed in every epoch of history, human history. Whatever technology we have at that time, we use that to explain every single thing.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
And so currently, you see this in nutrition. You'll hear people talk about burning calories. So if you want to burn more calories, just if you say that statement, you're ignorant with regards to how the human physiology even works.
Please say more about that.
So back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, they had this machine called a bomb calorimeter, which is basically a big thing that you burn stuff in, and it's surrounded by sterile water, and they can measure the temperature of that water very carefully, okay? And so they would take a piece of steak and put it in there and then burn it up. And they would measure how much carbon's left, what's left, but they would also watch the temperature of the water change very carefully. That's where the whole concept of calories comes from. Now, if you're talking about your central heat and air, the concept of calories is very important. But if you're this is a biochemical meat machine we're in. Nothing is burned in your body ever. That's not how human digestion works. That's not how human physiology works, the biochemistry, the molecular biology, none of that. There's no burning in there. There's no calorie sensor in your body because that's a unit of heat measurement. Now, we put off heat, and I think that's what's confused a lot of people for a long time. But when you jump on the bathroom scale, that is not measuring energy. That is measuring mass, which mass is caused by atoms, right? And so what your bathroom scale is weighing is the amount of atoms that are contained in your body with regard to the gravity of the earth. That's what mass is. It has nothing to do with how much energy is in your body. Okay, and so we can prove this by I'll let you stand on your bathroom scale, and then I'll take I'll electrocute you. I'll put 10,000 volts through you. Your weight won't change, but that's a lot of energy. And so everybody wants to talk about the energy balance model as far as weight gain and weight loss, but there's another way of looking at this, and it's the mass balance. And so basically, if you eat an inappropriate diet that tweaks your hormones in the wrong way, then you're going to store fat. Now, 10,000 years ago, that was super important that you be able to store fat quickly and easily. Now, in modern society, that's usually a net negative, right? So when you jump on the bathroom scale, you're measuring how many atoms are in your body. So if you eat a diet that mucks up your hormones enough that you don't get satiated. And we know that modern food's designed to keep you from becoming satiated, to keep you thinking you're hungry constantly, then you're going to take in too many atoms. You're going to keep eating and keep putting atoms and molecules in your body past the point where your hormones, if they were in the right place, would say, no, you're full, stop. So then when you get on the scale, your weight has went up, meaning that you have taken in more atoms than you've gotten rid of. And so do you burn fat? No, you don't burn fat. You metabolize fat. And most people have no idea where does the fat go when you lose it?
I've heard you exhale it. Is that true?
Do you poop it out and pee it out? Where does it go? And you can ask the average doctor this and watch their face, and then you'll have your answer. Where does the fat go? I lost 20 pounds. Where did it go? So you break down the fat into carbon dioxide and water. Part of it you exhale through the water vapor. Some of it you might sweat out. Some of it you pee out. And then you breathe out the carbon dioxide. That's where the fat goes when you lose weight. there's no burning that takes place. So but that's a holdover paradigm from back when everything was combustion, back during the combustion engine part of and so we're stuck in that. And that's one of the many battles I've been trying to fight, is to say, we actually don't burn anything. That's an old model.
Wow.
What we do is we store too many atoms if you mess with our insulin and leptin and ghrelin and other hormones. And then when you jump on the scale and you're 200 pounds overweight, you've got 200 pounds too many atoms in your body.
Wow.
It's not stored energy. Also, another important thing to say out loud is the human body cannot create the environment where either fission or fusion can take place. We cannot convert matter into energy, or vice versa.
We're not stars, right?
We are not stars. We are not nuclear reactors. That's right. Nor is your stove or your oven. They don't do those things. And so I hear constantly from PhD level nutrition people, you need to convert more of your mass to energy. You need to. That's the entire concept behind move more and eat less. That implies, you need to get on the treadmill, you lazy bastard, and burn off this. So obviously you need to fission away or fusion away. It's like, no, it's not how it works at all. Not how it works.
What if I told you that you could lower your tax bill and stack Bitcoin at the same time? Well, by mining Bitcoin with Blockware, you can. New guidelines from the Big Beautiful Bill allow American Bitcoin miners to write off 100% of their mining hardware investment in a single year. That's right, a 100% write-off. So if you had $100,000 of income or capital gains, you could write off that entire amount by investing it in Bitcoin mining hardware. Blockware's mining as a service allows you to start mining Bitcoin right now with minimal effort. Blockware handles everything from securing the miners to sourcing low-cost energy to configuring the mining pool. They do it all. You can stack Bitcoin at a discount every day and save big when tax season comes. So you can get started today by going to mining.blockwaresolutions.com/breedlove. Again, that's mining.blockwaresolutions.com/breedlove. Would it be more appropriate to describe the body as like a signaling system? Because the hormones obviously are, as 100%. I understand it, signaling systems. And so, and because these things change, obviously, as we age, they change. Well, men and women are different. Obviously, women have like lunar hormonal cycles. We have solar. But I've noticed, recently with the peptide stuff, is a lot of it's about, you're just changing the signaling pathway. And that seems super effective. Like I take an appetite, GLP-1 or whatever it is, and I don't even have to, you do eat less naturally, but your hormonal changes just cause you to kind of lose weight. So like, what is the more appropriate paradigm, I guess, if it's not burning calories and kind of like a net, profit and loss statement on your caloric intake? What is the right way to look at it?
So there is a profit and loss statement, but it's about mass. It's about atoms, molecules. It's about matter. That's what we're talking about here. And so
those things aren't convertible. Is that not E equals MC?
Not in the human body.
Okay.
No, but in stars and
Got it.
reactions.
Okay, that's why you said it. Okay.
But I've actually had people argue with me on Twitter, like, "Oh yeah, no, you," and I'm like, "How much energy? How do you weigh? How do you measure that? How much energy you burn in the gym?" And they're like, "Oh yeah," and literally imply that we somehow convert matter to energy in our body. It's like that's not how it works. Look into that a little bit more. But they come at me with that arrogant ignorance, like, "Oh, you're an idiot. What are you talking about? Of course we can." It's like, not in your body. I bet you $100 you don't convert matter to energy in your body, because you would explode or burn up instantly. That's not how it works. So you're right that this is signaling, and that this is messaging. Food is the ultimate signal for the human body. I like to use the Pareto principle, 80-20. The biggest improvement you can make for your health is to fix your diet. That's 80% of the battle. And so, supplements might be a 1 or 2% solution. Peptides might be a 2 to 5% solution. But the 80% solution, the thing you're going to get the most bang for your buck, the thing you're going to move the needle the most with the least amount of effort is the food that you eat and the junk that you avoid.
Yeah.
And so nutritional density is super important. I think about calories kind of, and correct me where my thought process is off here, like gallons for my automobile. I can put gallons of diesel in my truck and it runs really well. But if I put gallons of water or jelly juice or I don't know, whatever other fluid I can put in there, it's not going to work. And most people seem to be overfed and nutritionally deficient.
Sure.
And so the counting calories thing is something we really can let go of.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's not helpful. And we can see this because every single diet that got popular in the, Weight Watchers started in 1968 or 69. That's when it started. And so if the move more, eat less, go to the gym and join Weight Watchers, if that worked, we would have all been skinny in 1975 if you gave all the laggards time to catch up, and there'd be no need for any of these other diets after 1975. But obviously that did not work, and it's because it's based on calories in, calories out, which gives a completely confusing message to people because now they used to print entire books that were just calorie catalogs or calorie Bibles. Like I'm going to eat a medium-sized Rome apple. How many calories? Okay, got it. And people would consume their life keeping a notebook of all the calorie intake and outtake. Failed 99% of the time. It's almost 100% over the long term. Now, that's not to say that you can't calorie restrict, which is actually you're restricting the mass that goes into your body, and lose 20, 30 pounds. But because you're doing this all under a false paradigm that this is calories in, calories out, what invariably happens is that you lost 20, but you gained back the 20 plus 5 more.
The rebound.
Exactly right. And we see that over and over with every single diet. But now the reason, for example, the GLP-1 agonists are now super popular is because they actually change the signaling. Now I've got issues with taking those long-term at higher doses. There's no long-term study that's ever been done in humans that says, yep, this is perfectly safe to take high-dose Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro for the next 25 years. There is, you are currently the lab rat. You're the guinea pig. If you're taking those long-term at high doses, we will see in what pharmaceutical companies called aftermarket data. We will see if that's actually bad or not. I predict that it will not end well for the people who take high doses long-term. I could be wrong. Nobody knows, literally.
I think that's a good philosophy with basically everything, unless it's something that's been proven by nature over thousands of years.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. If it's got less than a 12,000-year track record, I'm literally not interested.
So in that bucket, meat, coffee, I don't know, what else? Wine, maybe?
Yeah, so sadly, I'm working on a book called In Search of a Proper Human Diet. And one of the bedrock principles of a PhD is that what you're eating or drinking has to be ancestrally appropriate. And I use 12,000 years for that cutoff. Any cutoff is going to be arbitrary. But that was kind of before whatever happened in the Younger Dryas period. There was some kind of catastrophic thing that happened that scientists still argue about. But something happened, and our food milieu changed a lot. We went from, bringing down 5,000-pound megafauna to chasing rabbits and squirrels and trying to learn how to make wheat grow in just a few millennia right there. Something bad happened.
This is when the human population was narrowed down to like 10,000 people.
One of the several times. One of the several times that we really went through kind of the eye of the needle. And so we came out on the other side with what many people call the agricultural revolution, which I call the agricultural devolution. Because it's well documented in anthropology that when we changed from eating fat animals predominantly to eating wheat, rice, oats, corn, whatever grain, we lost 3 or 4 inches of height on average. Our bones just literally went to crap. And we can see this in the fossil record very clearly. We became iron deficient. We got infections repetitively. Our dental health went in the crapper. Everything declined after that kind of 12,000-ish year cutoff. And so that's where I decided that's going to be my mark. If we did it more than 12,000 years ago, I'm going to try to mimic that. And all we can do is mimic in some cases because we live in this.
Of course.
My current belief is that the more successful you are in mimicking that, the healthier you're just going to effortlessly be, naturally be.
Yeah.
Not like you have to jump through all these hoops. Because it's my contention that the human body, the default setting, when the doctor first smacks you on the butt, your default setting is good, vigorous, vibrant health.
Mm-hmm.
And so with the caveat that maybe your mom, when you were in utero, she was smoking and drinking and snorting whatever and eating whatever, that may have manipulated your epigenetic switches even before you had any kind of agency. But that moment when you pass the threshold, your optimal settings are good health.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And so that's kind of a baseline principle. We need to try to mimic what happened before the agricultural revolution. That's another bedrock principle. And so if you kind of go with those assumptions, it becomes quickly self-evident what you should do and what you shouldn't do. And what I was going to say is, very sadly, coffee, therefore, becomes not ancestrally appropriate. And because we've only been drinking coffee and using the tea and the coffee plant for 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 years, depending on what research you look at. So not ancestrally appropriate, but I still love it, and I'm still going to drink it because I've done that experiment where I stopped it for 90 days. Nothing miraculously great happened, and so I love it. I love that morning ritual, so I'm going to have my coffee. But there are a lot of kind of carnivore purists who'd be like, no, you're not carnivore, you're drinking coffee. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be a purist anything. What I'm trying to do is find the exact blend where I can just be effortlessly healthy, effortlessly have no brain fog, no anything. And it's my current belief that if you do that, how can that not increase your health span and lifespan?
Right.
How can it not?
Yeah. I mean, you're getting, I don't like this term actually. I was going to say getting back to first principles, but you're really just stripping out a lot of the human intervention over the past 12,000 years, all the things we've created, which are, wonderful. We've improved our standards of living and all of that. But with that experimentation comes trade-offs, and we also have microplastics issues and all that.
Yeah, we also have central banks.
And central banks, of course.
So the agricultural thing that happened made modern society possible.
Yes.
It made it possible for that light to come from China and from this table to come from Brazil. It made all that possible. And so I'm not saying that it was uniformly bad.
Sure.
But your body is a very ancient thing. You cannot come at me and say, "Oh, we've got modern supplements now, modern food we make in a factory that's going to be just as good." That's foolishness to think that and to believe
this
that.
This is radical conservatism, basically, right? Because you're going back to the things that you're hardwired for.
But I don't think it's irrational.
No,
I think it's very, very logical because cows eat grass.
Yeah.
Therefore, everything else that follows that.
Yes. Yeah. But there's a balance, right? Because you're not going to omit all modern conveniences or foods like coffee and other things.
You and I both have great cell phones. I love modern technology. I love modern society. But I realized that this is a different thing than a cell phone. Mm-hmm. This is just like the cow eating grass. This is an ancient adaptation machine that's been through more than we even currently realize. We have no idea what the human species has been through.
Right.
But if you do study the anthropology and paleoanthropology, you begin to get an idea. You find out, man, there are multiple needle eyes that our species went through, even before we were Homo sapiens sapien, that we were down to like maybe 1,100 of us, period. That's it. And so we've been almost wiped out multiple times. And when you start to know that and consider that, you're like, we're pretty damn impressive. Yeah. Just like every species currently extant, we're pretty impressive or we would not be here.
Yeah.
And so that kind of argues against what many people believe is kind of the fragility of the human species. If you're a student of history, you realize that even 300 years ago, the stuff that people did on the daily basis, like they didn't even get worked up about it, is stuff that would make a modern human just sit down and weep. There's no way I can do that. How did they do that? We're the same exact species as them. We're also the same exact species as before the agricultural revolution. 15,000 years ago, if you grabbed one of us back then, shaved us, washed us, and put us in a sexy white shirt like that, you literally couldn't tell the difference.
Yeah.
And you may have heard this before, but guys like you and me, I mean, we got some Neanderthal DNA.
Yeah.
There's no way around that. And so if you took one of us and rolled us in the mud and didn't shave us for a month and then put us back then, as long as we didn't speak, they'd be like, yeah, he belongs here. Yeah. We haven't changed. We haven't evolved since 15,000 years ago. We are the same organism.
Yes.
That's super important.
So the principle at play here, I think, is that biological evolution moves so much more slowly than cultural, technological evolution.
Glacially slow. And so that's the thing that makes us human is our cultural evolution. Yeah. The fact that I can have an idea in my head and I can put it in your head, and then you can go put it in 1,000 heads. That's what makes us human. Really, that's the thing. It's not opposable thumbs. It's not being bipedal. That's the least of it. The biggest thing, the biggest innovation is I can take an idea and put it in your head. Yeah. And that's it. That's what makes us human. But if you take away that and all the technology, we're just biological mammals.
Crazy two-legged apes.
We're yes, crazy, naked, two-legged apes that walk on their hind limbs. That's what we are.
So this idea of putting ideas and spreading ideas being fundamental to human nature, carnivory, keto, this rediscovery of ancestral ways of dieting and being, these ideas are spreading rapidly right now.
Yep.
What is it? Is it we've just gone too far into the cultural evolution? We've eaten a bunch of shit and we got sick, and now people are like, well, I don't know what to do to feel good. And someone figured out, hey, if you just eat meat, you'll cure like 90% of things. Like what's going on?
It's all that and more. Yeah. Okay. And so there is a concept that anthropologists talk about is the campfire. So 15, 20, 30,000 years ago, you would go out and do your thing. I'd go do my thing. And then we would all come together as a tribe of 50, 100, 150 people. And we would either grunt or talk in whatever rudimentary language. And you would tell me what you had learned that day. And I would tell you what I'd learned. Now, were we right 100% of the time? Obviously, no. There was tons of superstition, tons of false equivalencies and stuff. You would think, I saw this bird fly over and then it rained. So so there's obviously mistakes, but all that gets winnowed away through the eons of our campfire. Does that make sense? And so we might all believe that when the yellow bird flies over, it's going to rain because you told us that and we like you and you're pretty smart. But eventually we're like, I think that yellow bird thing's bullshit because I've seen several times it did not rain after the yellow bird.
The natural selection of
ideas. I think Robert's full of crap on that one, but he's still a smart guy. And we would slug it out around the campfire. Yeah. And you would get ostracized from the campfire if you strayed too far from things that sort of made sense. And I think that's where common sense comes from. It's like, as long as you say that and stay close to that, you won't get kicked out in the cold where the saber tooth is. So social media is our new campfire. The problem with social media is that there is not that immediate negative feedback that there was around the original campfire. Because if you were too abrasive, too aggressive, or said something too crazy, they would kick your ass out in the cold black jungle and that'd be the end of you. Well, you can currently be anonymous on the internet. You can currently say and do anything on the internet. But it's also the most powerful tool humanity's ever had for spreading good ideas. So obviously, yes, good and bad ideas can spread equally quickly. Some people would argue that the bad ones can go way faster.
Yeah.
But so back in 2017, my wife, Nisha, who is my brain and my compass, said, you should start a YouTube channel because you give people nutrition advice that no other doc gives. You should just start making YouTube videos about that. I'm like, and I had that little touch of arrogant ignorance. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm a board certified. I'm a fellow in the American Academy. I'm not going to have a YouTube channel. What? So one day I came home from the clinic and she said, how many people did you take care of today? I said, I don't know, 30. She's like, that's so great. I'm so proud of you. But what if you could have helped 30,000 people today? Wow. How cool would that be?
Brilliant.
And that was the moment when every husband has those moments when they're like, damn it, she's right again.
Yeah, she's right again.
So I started a YouTube channel, and I would just make a video, act like I'm talking to one person in the exam room, and explain a concept. and it kind of got popular and kind of blew up. But about that same time is when there'd already been the Atkins diet, there'd already been paleo, there'd already been low carb, but keto was becoming very popular. And I, early in my medical career, had been severely obese and pre-diabetic. I used to weigh 297 pounds.
Wow.
How many years ago?
That was back probably, I don't know, 2007, 8, 9, somewhere in there. I mean, I'm 6'3", so I like to think I carried it well, but I probably did not carry it well. I was fat and pre-diabetic. And so, coming from Tennessee, people in Tennessee, very common sense. You don't take your car to a mechanic whose car won't start. That's just, you don't do that. That'd be stupid, right? You don't go get a haircut from a guy whose hair is jacked up.
Yeah.
You just know better.
Yeah.
You learn that in
Just
Tennessee.
like you never ask the barber if you need a haircut.
Exactly, common sense. And so here I am, this fat, pre-diabetic doctor, going into your room and saying, now you're going to have to cut back. You're going to need to lose a little weight. And so I would, all women know this, that when you're talking to a man, he'll, you have the eye shift. But I was getting the eye shift down to the button over my belly, just this 10th of a second.
Oh, man.
Oh, it hurt bad for a common sense Tennessee country boy. I'm like, so I'm full of shit. That's what that 10th of
90% of communication is nonverbal.
100%, yes. And so I had to fix that. And so keto was becoming very popular. I'd already been looking a little bit into nutrition and stuff, but those 10th of a second eye glances at my fat gut, and then me seeing, oh, you're pre-diabetic. You're going to be a diabetic. I couldn't have that as a common sense person. So I had to figure out how to fix this. So I dove into the nutrition research, and I tell the story. I adopted the American Diabetes Association diet. I jogged 2 or 3 days a week. I didn't eat any bacon. I didn't eat any red meat. I would eat lots of whole grains. I'd drink fruit juice smoothies.
That's their diet. That's their recommendation.
Oh, you should look it up on the website. It's ridiculous. And for normal people, it's ridiculous, but especially for people with diabetes.
Wow.
It's like if you were truly trying to harm people with diabetes, you would recommend the ADA's recipes to harm a diabetic. And so, but I did that for 90 days, and I actually gained 3 pounds, and my A1C got worse. And that was the moment I was like, okay, I've got to figure this out. How? Because I mean, way over half my patients were obese. A third of them had type 2 diabetes. I need to be helping them, but I currently am ignorant. I don't know what to tell them to do because I tried this and it didn't work. Now, very often doctors think their patients are lying, right? You'll come in and I'll be like, Robert, I told you to move more and eat less, and you've gained 3 pounds and your A1C went up. I would suspect my patients were gluttons, sloths. Oh, here comes the ethics, here comes the religion, here comes the morality. I would just suspect that they don't care about their health. But now I had this 90-day experiment where I was the lab rat. I did it, and I know I did it because I was there. It didn't work. I'm like, oh, crap, okay. So I guess I need to look into this. And then with all the previous things like the vitamin D story, I'm like, it's possible that they're just completely wrong about this, right? So when I did start digging into it, keto was becoming very popular, 2016, 2017. So about the same time I started my YouTube channel. And so I used keto and lost like 50 pounds, reversed my prediabetes, but then also lots of other things got better as well that I was not anticipating, which we can talk about if you like. But so then for my most severely obese patients and my worst diabetics, I started recommending a ketogenic diet, which is basically, in a nutshell, very, very low in carbohydrates. And there's only 3 macronutrients. There's carbohydrates, fat, and protein. And so if you cut back severely on one of the macros, by definition, you got to eat more of the other 2, right? And so they were naturally eating more meat and eating way less carbohydrates, grains, sugars, stuff like that. Also fruit and vegetables. But they would come in invariably, they would have lost a significant amount of weight. Their A1C had improved significantly, but then again, they'd also have this other list of things that had also gotten better. They'd be like, Doc, my knee arthritis, it doesn't bother me at all anymore. Does this diet do that? And back then I'd be like, no, I don't know. Maybe you just weigh less and it's less stress. But it would be shoulder arthritis, Robert. And the shoulder is not a weight-bearing joint. So there's no reason for shoulder arthritis or thumb arthritis or elbow arthritis. They shouldn't be getting better if it's just a biomechanical issue. There was something else going on here. And so I was just more enthused by this. Like, wow, that's crazy. Because when I'd hear it from one patient, oh, my shoulder arthritis is so much better, you can't put any stock in that, because what doctors are looking for, we're looking for signal.
Right.
If there's a new drug that comes out and I start prescribing it to everybody and they come back in 3 or 6 months, I should see a significant signal if it's worth a damn. And so I recommended Weight Watchers, join the gym, deal a meal, whatever, and got no signal at all. But when I started recommending the ketogenic diet, which is very low carb and by definition contains more meat and eggs and stuff like that, huge signal. Within the 3 months, huge signal from virtually every single patient. Now, some people would be honest and say, I didn't do that. But everybody who said I did do that, their weight had changed meaningfully. Their A1C had changed meaningfully. And so I started making videos about, you should, if you have diabetes, if you have the following things, you should start eating a very, very low carb diet. And that's when the YouTube channel took off. But then I also was doing deep research. Why are all these cases of arthritis getting better? Why is eczema getting better? Why is psoriasis getting better? Why are autoimmune conditions like Hashimoto's thyroiditis? That's not a poundage thing. That's something else. That's biochemistry. That's physiology. So I was digging deep into that, trying to figure out how, because I didn't just hear it from one person. Very strong signal. Everybody with arthritis said their arthritis got better on a ketogenic diet. How is that happening? And so, like I said, reversed prediabetes, lost 30, 40, 50 pounds with keto. And then I kept hearing about this Sean Baker guy, this orthopedic surgeon who was eating nothing but meat. And I'm like, well, now that I had the paradigm of keto to look at, I didn't just look at it as some weird fad, random flip of the coin diet. I was like, he actually lowered the carbohydrates even more, is what he did. It's effectively the lowest form of carbs you can eat. So it's like the ultimate ketogenic diet. And I'm like, let me look at that. But the thing I was missing then that I finally figured out is when you're lowering your carbohydrate intake, you're also lowering your phytochemical intake as well.
Could you define that, please?
So phytochemicals are defense chemicals that every plant, without exception, puts into their leaves, their stems, their stalks, their seeds, their roots, their tubers, if they make tubers, even their fruit. Now, it's much lower in the fruit, but it's still present. Now, you remember the normal distribution curve from earlier we talked about. So let's just take wheat. That's what happened, 8,000, 9,000 years ago that I think caused a ton of problems with human health. But everybody went from never eating wheat their entire life to eating almost nothing but wheat, depending on what part of the world you lived in. And so you start getting this huge signal in the fossil record of people getting very unhealthy, very much more frail, bones break easier, teeth fall out. So now bring that forward to now. Every plant has these phytochemicals. They can be lectins, they can be oxalates, they can be phytates, they can be saponins, they can be phytoestrogens, there's a list of like 200. That's all plants have to fight with. If you're trying to go harvest a cow the old-fashioned way, that cow can kick you, bite you, run away from you, butt you. They can do all kinds of defense maneuvers. Plants, they're stuck. They have to use chemical warfare by definition. And they don't just use chemical warfare against humans. They use it against mainly insects, really. But then anything that will eat them, they need to have a defense set up for that animal to either lower that animal's reproductivity, so there's less of those animals, or to just, in some cases, kill them outright, or to make them have brain fog, to make them confused, so they, and that's kind of where some of the like nicotine, caffeine, morphine, they make you mentally alter you so that maybe you're not looking to eat them anymore. All these negative feedback loops that plants use to get insects and other animals to not eat them. Now, if you layer on top of that the normal distribution curve, then you're going to have a subset of people that are super sensitive to whatever phytochemical you're talking about, whether it's oxalates, lectins, phytates, whatever. You're going to have the majority of people, unless they eat too much of that, they're going to be pretty much fine. And then you've got that the other little subset on the other end of the curve, like the guy that used to just live on Doritos and Pepsi and Ding Dongs, and that was his 100% his diet, and he was still athletic and handsome and, could put out. So you've got that layered on top of that. Now all of a sudden you're like, but when it dawned on me that not only are they lowering carbohydrates, but by definition, they're lowering phytochemical intake. That's when I'm like, I wonder if that's why the shoulder arthritis got better. Why is that why the eczema gets better? Is that why the mental health improves in a ton of people? Is they're lowering their phytochemical load as well? And then now I'm down that rabbit hole, trying to figure out what do all these phytochemicals do. How do they affect the human body? It turns out that a ton of them are insecticides or insect repellents. But, if you believe in the evolutionary model, we all kind of came from the last common ancestor. That's where we all came from, all living life on this planet.
Is it a fungus? Is it?
Who knows what it is? There's theories, but how can we know?
Yeah.
But we all came from that last common ancestor. And so a lot of this is probably conserved. And we do see that when you look at things like every animal without exception makes melatonin. Every animal without exception has some either the hemoglobin or the chlorophyll.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they're very similar.
They're very similar. Yeah. Only the iron or the magnesium, that's the only difference effectively. And so these plants have been fighting this battle before even humans were on the planet, for millions of years before we got here. And so how are you going to pretend like that doesn't have an effect when, so when the average Instagram influencer is saying, oh, you need to have this big green smoothie with a pound of broccoli and a pound of kale and all this and just puree it and just slam it down. Well, actually, there's documented cases of oxalate poisoning and many, many other things. People developing kidney failure from too much of the green drinks and the green smoothies. Wow. So that's the people over here on this end of the curve that are super sensitive to that. But so you can't, now that you understand the normal distribution curve, you can't act like, well, it really mucks these people up. But these other people are not affected at all. It's actually very healthy for them. It's maybe a hormetic stress for them, right? It's like, no, there's a spectrum of damage. Some people are really damaged. Some people are damaged less. Some people seemingly are not damaged at all. But it's a spectrum. It's not just like this subset of people are destroyed by it, but these people aren't affected at all. That doesn't even make physiological sense. And so that's when I thought, I'm going to try this carnivore. Now, you need to know that all my adult life I've had severe heartburn. I used to take 2 Nexium every single day. And so when the Nexium drug rep would come with the samples, my patients never got those. I took all those, okay? But when I went keto, which I lowered the carbs, I also lowered the phytochemical intake, my heartburn got way better. Didn't go away, but it got much better. And so I went from taking 2 Nexium a day to maybe taking a swig of apple cider vinegar or
cured mine.
A Rolade or something. Yeah. And then, but after a month of this crazy orthopedic surgeon, Sean Baker's carnivore diet, my heartburn was gone. I didn't even know where I'd left my pack of Tums. I lost them and didn't even care. And you can't, that can't have anything to do with the calories. It can't have anything to do with the carbohydrates. That has to be the phytochemicals. There's nothing else you can blame that on. And that's when I really went down, into botany and several other genres trying to figure out what the heck is going on here. Turns out there are tons of other mammals. They just know intuitively, just like the cow knows which plants to eat and which ones not to eat. All animals know that, except for human beings, which are the most intelligent, but yet most ignorant mammalian species on planet Earth. We have forgotten, and I think it's because of that culture thing we talked about earlier. And when we sit around the campfire, you can say some stupid shit, and if we're not watching, we'll all believe it, and it'll become part of our belief structure, part of our paradigm, and then we go through generations believing this false thing. And I think that's what's happened when it comes to food. is we've went through generations after generation of believing false narratives about food to the point where now we're literally, if somebody came up and said, you should just eat cardboard and drink antifreeze, there'd be a subset of people be like, I'm going to try that cardboard antifreeze diet because, I've heard some good things about it on social media. There would be a subset who would try that because we're thoroughly confused about what a proper human diet should be. But it's not just social media's fault. This is the result of generations of bad nutrition advice, well-meaning, from seemingly very smart people, but here we are having no idea what to eat for optimal health.
Yeah, most people aren't eating food; they're eating food-like products. I remember being a kid and I preferred something that's packaged, branded. Like now I go into the grocery store, I'm like, I can't eat almost any of this stuff.
Lucky Charms, man.
Yeah.
Like there's no limit to the amount of chores I would do to get Granny Berry to buy me some Lucky Charms. I would do anything. Yeah. But that's just the foolishness of immaturity.
Sure.
What we're supposed to do as we mature is put away foolish things and re-examine every single belief we have. That's actually how smart species do it. Re-examine everything continually and go, wait, that's ignorant. I need to get that out of my repertoire. But none of us do that. We just pick a tribe because we're still the same species living around the campfire. We pick a tribe. That's our tribe. I believe what they believe. Now, if you by a flip of the coin, you picked a good tribe who's saying smart things, you're probably going to be fine. But regardless of the tribe, they're saying stupid things that you need to re-examine. You just don't know which ones are right and which ones are wrong. And that includes the medical school doctor tribe. Many people are told first day of medical school, half of what we teach you is wrong, but we just don't know which half. And that's absolutely true. It's actually probably more like 8/10 or 9/10 of what we teach you is wrong, but we don't know what's wrong and what's right. But that's your job as a good doctor, is as you go through your years of practice, is to continually be re-examining everything you were taught and going, does that still make sense? Is that right? Evolutionarily speaking, adaptation speaking, common sense speaking, does that make sense? Most doctors do not do that, just like most people don't do that.
Yeah.
You just believe what you're taught, you parrot it to the next generation, and now we've got generation after generation saying the dumbest stuff when it comes to physiology and biochemistry of nutrition and human health. It's maddening. And then it also makes room for just psychotic influencers to come out and say things like, you should eat only plants. That's how you'll realize your best health, which is actually a very harmful recommendation and can really harm people physically and probably more importantly, mentally, because you get caught up in all these ethical arguments and moral arguments, which really have nothing to do with human physiology and biochemistry, which is what it all comes down to at the end of the day. You can believe whatever religion you want. You can believe whatever ethical system you want. But when it comes time to put food down your gullet, that's a biochemical and physiological equation that if you don't honor it, your health will suffer, period.
I say eat first, then ethics, I've heard.
Absolutely. It has to be that way because regardless of somebody's religion, regardless of their moral or ethical beliefs, if you take that person and you go back in their family tree enough generations, guess what you discover? A meat eater.
Yeah, because we've been doing it for how long? 2 million years or something?
So as Homo 2
erectus,
to 3 million years, and even back before kind of the 300,000 year cutoff of Homo sapiens sapiens, that's about where most people say that's probably when we became modern humans. For a million years before that, we were eating mostly meat most of the time. And then for the first 280,000 years of Homo sapiens sapien, we ate virtually nothing but meat unless we were starving, in which case we'll eat whatever because we can adapt. And we're facultative carnivores, meaning we can eat some other stuff, but you can't stray too far from that or your health will suffer and your society will be wiped out. That's why there's not a recorded example of a vegan society before modern refrigeration. It first of all, it was impossible because without refrigerated transport, You cannot be vegan. It literally is impossible no matter where you live on Earth. You have to ship stuff in a refrigerated boxcar or boat, or you cannot be vegan. That is impossible. I would defy anybody watching this. If you're a vegan, and I'm highly offending you right now, just try it with what grows where you're at. For the next, not just do a 90-day experiment like I encourage everybody. For the next 90 days, I want you to eat only plants that occur within a 10-mile radius of your house. Or make it 100 miles. I'm not trying to be an asshole. Make it a 100-mile radius from where you live. Eat nothing but what grows there for 90 days. Now, you can quickly see as a common sense person, if you live in Minnesota or you live in really anywhere, even Miami, you know there's seasons to fruits.
Yeah, of course.
There's a season.
Yeah.
And so if you pick the wrong 90 days, you're going to starve to death.
Yeah. I'd give up hard-earned sats to listen to you speak with Rich Roll.
Oh, I'd love to. I have a lot of respect for him.
Me
not
too.
Not his nutrition recommendations.
Is he a vegan?
He's a vegan. He wrote a book called Finding Ultra. Like 12 years ago, he was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he got Joe Rogan into drinking these kale shakes.
Yeah.
I listened to that podcast. I went and bought a Vitamix, and I went on like a 6-month vegan stint. I was skinnier than I am now and cold all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And a shell of your what you could have been. Yeah.
I felt good for like a couple weeks there, probably because there was some detoxing. I don't know. I was running.
But I don't really
it wasn't
like
sustainable.
I don't like the debate setup, but I love having conversations. Me and Dr. Kahn, he's a very prominent plant-based vegan doctor. We had a conversation, and I don't think it went well for him because once you bring in the anthropology and the paleoanthropology, that kind of shoots every argument in the head. There's just no way.
Yeah, there's also, this may sound offensive, probably is, but like it's almost when you see the guys side by side. And when I see these vegan doctors debating a guy like you,
and there's that.
It's like, well, you know, as a man, like I'm just going to go with, before we even get to the debate, it's like this guy looks like he's about almost going to die right here, and this guy looks healthy.
Now, the people that were just offended by what you said, let me explain and talk you down off the ledge. What Robert just described is actually a very important evolutionarily conserved mechanism. It is one of the many things that we do is when we meet somebody, we judge them almost instantly for fitness, for how dangerous is this person? Can I poke this guy in the eye and run away? Or can I just break his neck? Or should I consider reproducing with this man or woman I just met? Like that doesn't make you an evil sinner. That we're hardwired to do that, and those many of those calculations occur either subconsciously or unconsciously. But that's the whole idea of the first impression.
For sure,
is you've already summed that person up, and you've already made concrete decisions about that person, but it may not even be conscious. And then for everybody who's trying to be very ethical and very moral, we try to be like, no, I don't do that. Maybe not consciously anymore, but you absolutely do that. But that's actually a very strong biological signal. And so you're kind of ignorant if you don't take that into consideration, even though it feels very surface level and very disrespectful and maybe unethical.
It sounds Darwinian to me. Like we had a guy in here.
It's 100% Darwinian.
The Austrian guy yesterday, Robin, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Guy is 6'8" or something. You know, he's a monster. He comes in the house and like, there's part of me that's immediately like, you know, like
swell up.
Like he's very nice, and very like wonderful, like guy, but like
you immediately swell up and tell your wife to go upstairs.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just human nature, and that's a lot of people talk about human nature in a negative light. And we do. We're mammals. We have the ability to do terrible things, but human nature is also a beautiful thing. That we have the ability to discover real truth, and we have the ability to pass that truth on to our progeny. But we have just exactly the same propensity and ability to pass on along bullshit as well.
Yeah, that's so true. One of my highest health priorities is keeping my brain in top shape. To take care of my brain power, I do many things, such as striving to read, write, exercise, and meditate daily. One of the latest tools in my brain power toolkit is MindLab Pro. MindLab Pro is a nootropic supplement that is scientifically proven to enhance your brain power. When I take MindLab Pro, my mind feels like it has a better grip on the world, my thinking is more lucid, and the articulation of my speech is radically improved. MindLab Pro has been tested in rigorous, double-blind, placebo-controlled human trials and has been proven to enhance brain power for users in every age group. MindLab Pro is an advanced formulation of 11 nootropic ingredients and is backed by research from over 1,400 human trials conducted over the past 32 years. So if you're looking to enhance your brain power, MindLab Pro is an excellent solution. Go to mindlabpro.com/breedlove to start enhancing your brain power today. Again, that's mindlabpro.com/breedlove.
Yeah, you covered, I mean, you essentially answered this question without answering it, but a lot of the vegans will say, like, you got gorillas and chimpanzees.
Yeah.
They're vegetarian. They're strong. They'll break your arm like a celery stalk.
Yeah.
We're closely related to them. That's one of the justifications for the vegan diet.
Yeah.
What's your response to that?
So I love that question because before I was a doctor, I was an animal biologist. That's my undergraduate degree. And so primatology I've always been fascinated. And so I actually know quite a bit, unlike the average vegan, I know quite a bit about chimpanzees and gorillas. So chimpanzees, gorillas, and bonobos are our least distant ancestors. I like to put it that way, and just in case we've got a young Earth creationist watching, that I don't offend them too much. I don't say our most, our closest living relatives. I say our least distant. And so that's absolutely true that gorillas are exclusively vegan. They eat a few bugs and stuff, but mainly vegan. But here's the thing the average vegan doesn't know. Gorillas have a behavior that's not talked about in the vegan community. It's called coprophagy. They eat their own poop.
Really?
Whoa.
And they do this regularly because gorillas are hindgut fermenters, meaning that they eat 16 hours a day. Mm-hmm. That's why their jaws...
Because they're vegan.
They're vegan.
Yeah.
They have to eat 16 hours a day, and they're huge. Mm-hmm. And so, but then they have all their gut bacteria in what we used to have the same setup 6-7 million years ago, but no more. We've evolved past that. And you can evolve that much in 6 or 7 million years. But they're hindgut fermenters, so they break down all of the cellulose and stuff in the cecum, in their large intestine. But they can't absorb. One of the things they can't absorb is vitamin B12. They can't absorb it. And so they have to eat their own poop. And a lot of primatology researchers don't emphasize that because the average PhD, as you can imagine, they're probably plant-based. And so they don't really want to talk about that. But if gorillas have to eat their own poop or they would die of B12 deficiency.
Wow.
That's number one. So that immediately makes...
Are there vegans doing that?
So you can't be vegan.
Well,
they love recycling,
Right. And so... so that gets distasteful very quickly, and the average vegan doesn't want to talk about that. Now, let's talk about chimpanzees. So they eat predominantly plants, no doubt about it. They're hindgut fermenters, but not as much as a gorilla. But here's the thing that vegans don't talk about when it comes to chimpanzees. They eat meat often. They eat lots of bugs and worms and grubs and stuff, which is not vegan. But they go hunting. They go hunting in packs for colobus monkeys. These are little bitty monkeys that live in the canopy, the high canopy.
Eat them alive, don't they?
They 100% will go. There'll be chimps in they like it's very human how they hunt. They'll have chimps up in the trees, usually the younger chimps. They go chasing the monkeys, and then you've got the older chimps stay on the ground and catch the monkeys when they fall. And literally tear them limb from limb and eat them. And that it's weekly, bi-weekly, once a month. They will establish a hunting party with the goal of let's go kill some monkeys and eat them. And then they'll go and do that. And that is a regular behavior. Now, they don't do it every day. They don't. They have. Remember, we separated from them 6 to 7 million years ago. So they can still eat meat once a week and still be fine. Plus the bugs, worms, and grubs. But they regularly hunt. This is a known behavior for them, and rip and just literally eat them alive. Now, you can imagine the average vegan would be quite offended by the conversation we just had, because not only does it involve taking innocent life, but it also destroys their entire argument, because these are our least distant relatives. And these are the strategies they've had to develop to get the vitamins and minerals that they need. Sorry, but the truth is what it is.
Yeah, that's
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I did know that about chimpanzees. That's really interesting. This is kind of a tangential question, but I don't think there'll be another place for me to ask it. If I'm not mistaken, the bonobos have like a matriarchal hierarchy, and the chimpanzees are very patriarchal. What happened there?
Sort of. Now, this is very touchy subject. So the primatology researchers, as I implied earlier, tend to be a little more liberal, tend to be a little more academic, tend to be maybe a little more plant-based. And so and remember also earlier, the campfire. Sometimes what we teach each other is just complete bullshit. Right. So yes, bonobos seem to be more collaborative, and they seem to be more sexual, and they seem to be like more matriarchal. But there are now younger primatology researchers who are going, yeah, not so much. Maybe a little more than chimps, but it's not like Mother Gaia. It's not that. It's not that, because they still have to live in the wild. Unlike academic researchers who get to live in fantasy land, these monkeys have to live in reality. And so, yeah,
that makes sense.
Interesting. Okay. I wanted to, I don't if you have anything else on that, but I wanted to ask about seed oils at some point, because I don't know where.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, where did we fuck up with that?
Like, it's a great question. Yeah. So if you follow the 12,000-year rule, and then your next intelligent question should be, well, how long have we been eating canola oil or soybean oil or peanut or safflower, sunflower, any of these oils? How long have we been eating them? Are they ancestrally appropriate? So the three plant oils that come close to being ancestrally appropriate, and you can see that in the majority of people, they can eat them and it doesn't seem to cause any problem, is olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil. And then there's several other tropical oils that fit that criteria that we've been farming and harvesting for 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 years. Now, that's long enough that we've probably adapted to that a little bit, so the majority of us can eat that and it seems to be fine. But what about canola oil? So this is actually, it used to be called a rapeseed. And initially the uric acid, the euric acid was so high that it would make you sick if you ate it. Also, it stinks. It's cloudy. It's awful. There's no way that you can eat canola oil, the original canola, without sending it to a chemical factory for extraction and deodorization and clarifying. You couldn't. Now they've crossbred it enough now and GMO'd it enough that you can get kind of expilator press, cold press canola oil, and it's tolerable. But it's still, if you're going to eat canola oil, you want it to go to the chemical factory, because it's not pretty and it's not fun to eat. So canola oil's only been around in the human food supply for 50, 60 years.
Wow.
So just right off the bat,
that's a problem.
You're like, and so I'm not even, because the research on carbohydrates, the research on meat, that's very clear. Those things matter. And there's a lot of people online that get very tore up about seed oils. And I have to admit, there's really not a lot of meaningful research showing harm from seed oils, like there is from eating too many carbs or stuff like that. But we got to go by the ancestral principle. We got to go by the cow eats grass. There's no way that we just tripped and fell on this oil that has to be developed and extracted in a chemical factory, and that's not going to do something.
Right.
Just from a first principle kind of thing.
We know we're not adapted to it.
We are definitely not adapted. Now, we may have tripped and fell and just luck of the draw found an oil that somehow doesn't cause any negative feedback in the human body. Cottonseed oil was the very first seed oil, and that was back in early 1900s. And it was initially like a wagon wheel lubricant. Yeah. And then they tried to make soap with it. And then this guy's like, if we could just get people to eat it, we would make a ton of money, right? And so he did, and he was very successful. That's where Crisco came from. Crisco was cottonseed oil.
Crazy.
And they used the new genre, the new science of propaganda, marketing, mass marketing. They used that to basically tell a false story around a campfire and get every young wife in America to believe that bacon grease and butter, that was your grandmother's, she cooked with that. You don't cook with that. You're a young modern woman. You use Crisco. Wow. And so that we've got that false story around the campfire with all these vegetable seed oils. Now, I'm not saying that they're as bad as some people say they are, but there's no way they're ancestrally appropriate.
Right.
It's just impossible.
Same thing with margarine, I imagine.
Yeah, remember seeing Fabio?
Oh, yeah.
Can't believe it's not butter.
Yeah. So plant butter is like, that should be a federal crime to call that plant butter. It's just vegetable seed oil that they've hydrogenated and made it look like butter. They even add coloring to make it look back like butter. And people fall for that. They're like, oh, yeah, I never eat, shortening and margarine. I'm eating this plant butter. And then I have to have that conversation. Yeah. It's like, that's another lie around the campfire. Sorry. That's not butter. And they're like, what do you mean? I thought it was just butter made from plants. No, that's vegetable seed oil.
Yeah, man, it's a bad one. So I want to ask you about how much weight, obviously you put some weight into anecdotal evidence or experience, because you mentioned you did for yourself earlier. So I didn't discover seed oils were bad until a couple of years ago. At the time, living in Hawaii, in the sun a lot, surfing a lot. Yep. I grew up in Tennessee. I didn't subscribe to sunblock. I just kind of went out in the sun all the time. So I'm not a stranger to the sun. But I was in my early 30s when I was in Hawaii. As I had gotten older, my sun sensitivity kept going up. Yep. Like I could only spend 20, 30 minutes in the sun, whereas a kid, I'd go out there all day. And this is thanks to Saladino, I was cutting a lot of things out of my diet at the time, ending up in basically pure carnivore, where I was just eating beef and salt, even cut the coffee at the time. And when I got the seed oils out of the diet, 6 months later, living in Hawaii, my sun tolerance went from like 30 minutes to 4+ hours.
Guess how long it takes for every skin cell in your body to be replaced?
I don't know.
About 6 months.
Wow. And so is that, like, I guess I wanted, because I've had a lot of arguments on Twitter and people are always like, that's bullshit. There's no fucking way. True. And I'm like, well, I don't know. It happened. And now I'm like, I still don't eat them and I'm fine in the sun for many hours. So like, what happened?
Remember, I told you earlier that every good doctor looks for signal from the recommendation. So one of the earliest signals I saw, I saw it in myself because I was not as sun tolerant as you. When I was younger, I would get sun poisoning. If I got a sunburn, it was no bueno. It was bad. And I could stay in the sun about 15 minutes. And I grew up on all the, my granny who raised me was all the vegetable shortening and Crisco because she was trying to stay away from that saturated fat she'd heard on TV. That was bad. Campfire, right? False story. And so I grew up made of vegetable seed oils. And so 10, 15 minutes in the sun, I would start to turn red. And if I stayed for, I remember I was in love with this girl and I was going to help her dad re-shingle their house. And it was like July, we were out for the summer. And I stayed up there all day in sun. It was not good. It was really bad. Yeah. For weeks, I was pretty much bedridden because of the sun poisoning. And so, but when I went keto, I cut back the vegetable seeds a lot because I was eating more animal fat. So I just didn't have the taste for fat as much because I was getting a lot of fat. But then when I went carnivore, I was cooking with bacon grease and butter and beef tallow. I noticed that I could stay in the sun, used to be 10, 15 minutes. Now I could stay 30, 40 minutes. And not only did I not burn, but I was actually able to develop a tan, which I was a redneck. I was either red or white. That was my two options growing up. But now I can actually tan as a carnivore. And so everybody's going to say, but what's the mechanism? How is that possible? So vegetable seed oils contain lots of different fats, different carbon length chains of fats. Well, your body, if you're not eating enough animal fat, is going to use some of those to make the lipid bilayer in each cell membrane, every cell in your body, really, but the ones we're talking about now with regards to skin cells. That's right. Yeah. And so if the lipid bilayer is made up of the wrong fats, then your skin cell is obviously not going to perform as well because it's made of inferior fats.
Wow. Interesting.
Right? And it takes about 4 to 6 months to replace all your skin cells. And I kept seeing this signal in carnivores. After 4 or 5 months of carnivore, I can stay in the sun way longer now and I don't sunburn. just imagine, now that you know as much as you do about me, just imagine what that did to my brain. I'm like,
wow,
what? How? And so here I go down that rabbit hole. It's like, it's the fatty acids.
And then all those stories from childhood made sense.
Exactly.
Wow.
How when I was 18, I was in bed for a week because I tried to put shingles on my girlfriend's house in the middle of summer. And now I can literally, I used to be the guy when me and the kids and the wife would go to the beach, I would tell my phone, hey, I'm not going to say it to wake up everybody's phone. Wake me up in 15 minutes. Because after 15 minutes playing in the water out on the beach, I'd have to go to the umbrella.
Wow.
So I was a ton of fun at the beach, right? I was under the umbrella. But now I could go and I could spend an hour or two.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how? So then finally I made the connection. The lipid bilayer of each cell in your body is made of the fats you eat without exception. And so if you're building the cell membrane with the wrong fats, the cell is not going to function. Now, there's a lot of people who make the leap. Well, that's got to increase your risk of skin cancer then if you're eating all the seed oils. I'm like, yeah, probably, but we haven't proven that, so I can't say that. Well, that's probably makes you more likely to develop eczema and psoriasis. Remember earlier?
Right, of course.
Now it's starting to become clear. Oh, if you're building your skin cells out of the wrong fats, of course you're going to be more at risk for that perfume that typically shouldn't bother you at all, or that sun exposure that shouldn't bother you at all. Now it's causing eczema. Now it's causing your psoriasis to flare up. Now it's causing easy sunburns, probably causing increased rates of skin cancer, but we don't know that yet. We need long-term studies. Now you're starting to see, oh my God, it affects, because every organ in your body is made up of tissues, which is made up of cells, which contain cell membranes. So obviously, if your cells are not built out of the right building material, the cell is not going to function optimally. And we haven't even got to the mitochondria and the subcellular level yet. That's a whole other rabbit hole of how eating the wrong foods is going to affect your health, your energy, your mental health, and everything else. It just keeps going and going and going.
This dovetails from yesterday's conversation where we talked a little bit about how important heuristics are. So you don't need to read any of the data. You don't even need to wait for the research. You don't need any of that. Just follow the ancestral principle heuristic. And it's like, well, seed oil's been around less than 100 years. Don't touch them, right? You could avoid all this.
And so that's called the precautionary principle.
Yeah.
That just out of precaution, and so in medicine, doctors have this saying, you don't ever want to be the first doctor or the last doctor to prescribe any drug.
Yeah, they say it in commercial real estate too. Never be the first guy on the block.
Exactly right. You can be the second or third guy, but don't be the first guy because that could be bad. Yeah. And so we are always hesitant if a new drug comes out because of the precautionary principle. Sure. I'm going to let some other guys prescribe that and wait a few months, and then I'll prescribe it. But we ignore the precautionary principle when it comes to new foods. I mean, how many people would line up if they did perfect lab-grown meat? They would line up around the block. I'll only eat lab-grown meat from now on, completely ignoring this ancient principle. You're never the first guy or the last. You never are the first guy to, it's like when you were a teenager, you come to a river you never been to before, and you're like, hey, let's go swimming. You're all like, yeah, great. Yeah, but there's always that one guy, he's like, watch, I'm going to dive head first into this water I've never been to. Yeah. Did you see his face? Yeah. He's a Tennessee boy. He's like, no. You're never the first guy to dive in head first.
It was rock quarries for us.
I have a good friend who's in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
He was that guy.
Yeah.
And he's still in a wheelchair to this day. He's got a great life. He's a great guy, but he's in a wheelchair because he didn't honor the precautionary principle. Maybe go in foot first, but you don't dive head first into water you don't know.
That's right.
You got to apply that to food.
Yeah.
First mover disadvantage.
It's what do they say? The pioneers get the arrows in the back kind of thing.
That's 100%.
Be careful.
If you're the first pioneer, you get the arrows in the face.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
Oh, man.
What? So you've been carnivore 8 years?
Almost 9 years.
And so maybe you just tell us a little bit about that. Like, I know you said you were very overweight at one point. You lost a lot of weight doing keto, then carnivore. Yep. What got you on full carnivore? How has your experience been?
So when I was graduated high school, I was about 185 pounds, which is way too skinny. But that's just where my set point was. And then in my mid-30s, early 30s, I went up to 297, just eating whatever at the the college cafeteria, the med school cafeteria. And then when I started keto, I lost 40 pounds, give or take. And then when I went keto, I went just within months back to 220, 225. And that's where I hang out now.
Were you trying to be low fat? Were you concerned about fat or cholesterol when you first got into keto?
I'd already started discovering that the eating cholesterol is bad for you. Campfire story was probably not true. And then I started really looking at that, and you know as well as I do, like in monetary theory, sometimes you look at the same research but from a different perspective or a different paradigm. And then it's like, oh, I get how they got that result. It doesn't mean what they think it means. And so the same kind of theory applies to the lipidology, which is a huge subsection of medicine, really cardiology, is lipidology, studying the cholesterol, the LDL, the ApoB, the LP(a), all that stuff. Yeah, and so the more I looked at it with fresh eyes and a fresh paradigm, I'm like, I don't think that's actually harmful, if at all, very minimally. And the more I researched and learned, the more I found out, yeah, if your A1C is high, it literally is meaningless what your LDL cholesterol is.
What is A1C?
So A1C is a lab test we can draw. It's a blood sample. It tells me roughly over the last 110 days how what your blood sugar's been. And so it looks at the glycation of a molecule on your hemoglobin in your blood. And the average red blood cell lives about 110 days. And so we can do the math and say, okay, based on that, if your A1C is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, we can tell how much glycation has happened to that red blood cell. And that can tell me indirectly what your blood sugar's been running. Okay, so
is it showing variability or just kind of the overall level?
So there is some variability, but it's pretty consistent.
Okay.
So if you're eating a high carb diet, your A1C is going to tend to be higher than if you're eating keto or carnivore.
Got it.
And then the fasting insulin is another test that's super easy. Everybody needs to get their fasting insulin checked. If you haven't already done that, it's one of the most important tests that the average doctor not only doesn't check but has never heard of. And so I knowing those two tests, and then also triglycerides and HDL, I kept looking at LDL cholesterol levels through the lens of these others. Turns out those tests are 10 times more important with regards to your risk of having a heart attack or stroke than LDL being elevated. Those 4 tests make LDL cholesterol being elevated almost irrelevant. Now, maybe it's still a tiny risk factor. And a good Tennessee country boy analogy is if I had a shotgun and a BB gun, and I said, I'm going to shoot you with one of these. And this is a conversation that's often had in Tennessee. You know, everybody's been shot with a BB gun in Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to shoot you with the 12 gauge or the BB gun. You pick.
Pretty obvious.
Pretty obvious, BB gun. So having high A1C and high fasting insulin, that's the shotgun.
Okay.
High triglycerides or low HDL, that's the shotgun that will kill you. High LDL might be a BB gun to the shoulder. It might be a meaningful risk factor, but it's almost irrelevant when you compare it to the other metabolic markers with regards to heart attack and stroke. And so I didn't worry because I'd been looking at that stuff. So I didn't worry much about, because my total cholesterol went up to 350 when I first started keto, and my LDL cholesterol went up to 250, which is super high, spooky high, scary high if you're a traditionally practicing allopathically trained doctor.
Does that mean we have the wrong standard in place?
100%. Yeah, it's another one of those bullshit campfire stories. Yeah.
Any doctor would put you on statins immediately.
100%. Yeah. And some doctors will fire you from their practice if you refuse to take the statin. They're like, well, you're too big of a liability. I'm not even going to see you anymore.
Wow.
While your A1C was still elevated and your fasting insulin was elevated, which are the true risk factors, but they're going to focus everything, all 7 minutes of your office visit is going to be focused on talking about the LDL and how you need to be on a statin or worse. And so I didn't, and now over the course of 10 or 11 years, I've been low carb-ish, if not. My total cholesterol went to 350 initially. LDL went to 250, and now my total cholesterol is down to around 250, and my LDL is like 150. So they've just kind of trended back down on carnivore.
Those are still high by the
Still
normal standard.
100% high. Yeah,
I have,
but
I have something similar, a little high.
I literally have no fear of that at
Yeah.
all because my A1C, my fasting insulin, my triglycerides, my HDL, and my HSCRP, which is an inflammatory marker, they're all pristine. And so I hang out at about 220 to 230, depending on time of year. Because in Tennessee, in the spring, summer, fall, I'm outside.
Yeah.
I'm working on the farm. And then in the winter, I may go up to 230, which is not, that's kind of ancestrally appropriate once again, right? And so I'm not too worried about that because I know as soon as spring comes, I'll go back to 220. And so I just kind of hover in that, which some people would say, oh, you're still overweight. Well, I'm very happy with where I'm at. My metabolic markers are pristine. My waist to height ratio is 0.5, and my wife loves me. So I have no worries and no complaints.
We're the same size. I mean, 220. I don't. It does on the normal charts.
That's right.
I'm overweight.
You'd
but
still
it's
be
like,
technically
I'm
overweight.
not.
But if you measure your waist to height ratio,
Yeah.
and that's everybody ignore the BMI because at the extremes of each end of height and weight, you're going to get wonky numbers. The BMI was never meant for individual patients. It was meant for population data.
Gotcha.
But you can, at home for free, if you have a Taylor's tape, you can measure your waist and you want to measure it right at the fattest place, right at the place you prefer not to measure it. That's where you measure it. And then you already know your height, probably. Yeah. And you divide the waist by the height. And you can do it in centimeters or inches, but you have to be consistent. And if it's 0.5, really 0.53 or lower,
you're good.
You're good. You're good. You have nothing to worry about. And I'm at 0.5, 0.51, depending on time of year.
Yeah.
And then my 5 metabolic markers, 34.
34, yeah. That's about where I'm at, too.
Yeah, it's 6'3", 6'3 and a half. I'm very happy with that. Yeah.
Wow. You're 34.
34, 35,
Yeah. If you carry enough meat, you're not going to have a 30-inch waist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a 32. I've been a 32 for many years.
Yeah.
This guy's dragging me to the gym soon.
Yeah, we're about to put him through the weight training protocol.
Yeah, I can't say no.
Yeah. And no matter how hard you work out, your waist will either stay the same or go down. You can't work out hard enough to meaningfully change your waist size to make it grow.
Yeah.
You can make it shrink if you need to, but you can't make it grow. There's just the muscles don't do that. They don't work that way.
Unless you get that bubble gut from too much growth hormones.
Take a bunch of HGH.
But you can make your shoulder measurement go from 38 to 51.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And your thigh measurement, it can go from 17 to 27, but not your waist. That's why waist to height ratio is such an important metabolic marker because it also, if you've got too much visceral fat, your waist to height ratio is going to be above. It's going to be 0.6 or higher. And that's a big red flag.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Waist to height, huh? Yeah. Do you take any supplements at all? Magnesium, potassium? I got my blood work done a couple months ago, and I was a little low on potassium, a little low on magnesium. And the magnesium might have been an issue from drinking too much coffee.
Maybe, yep.
But so I'm curious. Take any supplements?
I do take a few supplements, but not nearly as many as most people would maybe imagine. So in this, like we talked about the vitamin D. So I take 5,000 units of D3. It's also got K2 in it, a combo of MK4 and MK7. I take that every day in the spring, summer, fall. And then in the winter, I take 10,000 units just because I'm a low vitamin D guy.
Low sunlight in Tennessee too.
Right. Especially in the fall, winter, spring. But I tend to always be on the lower end like you, so I have to take a little vitamin D because am I at least in part just treating the number on my lab sheet? Yes, I am. I fully admit that. Yes, I am, because I think it might matter. I take iodine, super important. Happy to talk about that.
Thyroid?
Big deal. My thyroid function is perfectly normal. What I discovered in my research is that every single human cell that's ever been studied, from the cell that makes your eardrum to your eyeball to your skin, every cell has something on its surface called a sodium iodide symporter. Now, that's a little machine in your cell membrane wall that does work. And anybody who's studied anatomy and physiology and evolution know that cells don't do work unless it benefits a cell. That's anachronistic. It just wouldn't happen, right? And so the only reason for that to be there is that cell needs iodine. Now, everybody knows your thyroid needs iodine. Some people know that your mammary gland tissue needs iodine. Even fewer people know your salivary gland needs iodine. Those three things actually concentrate iodine. But every cell line that's ever been studied in human beings has a sodium iodide symporter. No exceptions. That tells us that by definition, every cell needs iodine. Okay. Now, 150 micrograms, which is the current our recommended daily intake, that will keep you from having a goiter. That's what the research was done. So you won't have a big swollen thyroid. That doesn't take into consideration the rest of your body. And so it's my opinion that the average person needs at least 600 micrograms every single day, either from iodine-rich foods. Got a YouTube video, right, about naturally occurring iodine-rich foods. Hint, they all come from the ocean. But this was a big deal socially back before World War I. All the young men, 18, 19 years old from Minnesota, Wisconsin, Chicago area, they were all getting 4Fs, meaning they couldn't serve because they had a goiter. And so that's where putting iodine in salt even comes from. Is some smart guy said, everybody eats salt. And we can't really have a war that we win if all the young men in the middle of this giant continent, iodine comes from the ocean. So the further you are from the ocean, the less iodine there's in the soil. And back then, they actually ate stuff that grew in the dirt. They didn't buy food from supermarkets. And so they all had a big goiter. So they put iodine in the salt. And other cultures have put iodine in bread. They put iodine in other things trying to treat this. But the iodine that you get in iodized salt is just enough to keep you from having a goiter. It is in no way enough to optimize the function of every cell in your body. And so I use something called Lugol's iodine. It's a liquid. I use 2%. I put somewhere between 5 and 10 drops in my coffee and water during the day, just so that I've got enough. Now, that scares a lot of doctors to death because they were taught that iodine is dangerous or poison. Some people remember the mercurochrome or methylate your grandmother had in the medicine cabinet that had the skull and crossbones on it. Other people have heard about, oh no, they kill your thyroid with iodine. Well, that's radioactive iodine. It's not just iodine, right? And then a lot of people conflate it with, oh, they said in a nuclear explosion I should take iodine, so maybe I don't know how that, but again, that's to protect your thyroid from the radioactive iodine that would come from a nuclear explosion. So iodine's super important.
Interesting.
And so many people who are chronically have cold feet, chronically just, like on 50% speed, chronic brain fog, chronic just aches and pains, you start getting enough iodine either from food or from a supplement. I'm not a big supplement pusher. If you can get it from food, please. Immediately, their feet aren't cold constantly. They're not the one cranking up the thermostat when nobody's looking. They're sleeping better. They got their brain fog's gone just because every cell in your body needs iodine. It's a huge deal. And if you live more than 20 miles from the coast,
probably not good.
Even if you're eating organic, non-GMO, homegrown stuff, there's not enough iodine in the soil. And if it's not in the soil, it's not going to be in the plant, and it's also not going to be in the cow that eats the plant.
Right.
And therefore, out of an abundance of caution, I supplement iodine. And then I also, once a day, I'll use a packet of unflavored element. And, just to get the electrolytes. Yeah, because especially if I'm sweating out on the farm, I'll use 2 or 3 packs. But it's usually just one a day, just out of an abundance of caution. I've never been low in any of those things, but I think it's prudent to just kind of make sure that you're up to date with some things that are, kind of topped off.
Just sodium and potassium.
Sodium, potassium, magnesium, magnesium, potassium, sodium, chloride, those 4, just to make sure. Another big important principle is to salt your food to taste. Your tongue is a very sensitive biochemical instrument. Low salt is not good for you. Low salt is not a healthy way to eat. Salt your food to taste. Your tongue will tell you if you need more or less.
That was another one of those fictions that's been spread for so long.
100%.
Salt's bad for your heart somehow.
Literally so many things like that. We could talk for days about all of the false mythology that started out as, I'll give you a great example. There's still doctors scared to death of testosterone optimization because they heard in med school that if you give somebody testosterone shots, that's like pouring gasoline on a fire with regards to prostate cancer. Turns out it was one doctor at Harvard, so he was a big dude around the campfire, right? That he had one or two patients that, and turns out his research didn't even prove what he said. And so he just started saying, giving testosterone to an older man is like pouring gasoline on the fire with regards to prostate cancer. He's from Harvard.
Those metaphors,
big
again,
deal.
man.
And that's right. Also a great meme, right?
Yeah.
And you can visualize it. Boom. And that was back in the 30s or 40s.
Wow.
Even in 2026, many doctors still believe that like gospel.
Wow.
And it's been completely disproven, completely shown to be foolish. But yet there are millions of men in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s suffering because their doctor's like, I'm afraid I'll make your prostate cancer worse or give you prostate cancer. I don't want to do that. And the guy's like, well, he's my doctor. I trust him.
Sure.
I guess I'll just suffer. It's complete horseshit. That's the problem.
There's way too much of that. In the South, in my experience, these people just take whatever their doctor says as gospel and don't question them enough.
Yep.
I do want to selfishly ask you about this. So I've always had normal high testosterone, but I turned 40 in 2 weeks.
Yep.
When I tested it a year ago, I had lower free T. I was like the lower end of the standard, or maybe even outside the lower end.
Yeah.
And so I started TRT 5 weeks ago. Dude, fucking love it. Like the main benefit that I didn't expect to have, like I knew it would help in the gym and all these things, but I love the feeling of productive effort now. I've never been more productive in my life. Like it's made work feel like this very fun game. Or I used to have to kind of push myself to work. Now I'm like, I wake up excited to work.
Absolutely.
Could you just talk a little bit about testosterone optimization?
Yeah.
And your views on it?
This is a huge topic. I love this topic. So why is Robert now eagerly productive with this extra testosterone on board to get him back? And let's segue. If you check testosterone levels now versus, and we've got blood samples stored from the 1910s and 1920s and 30s, their testosterone was anywhere from 50 to 150% higher than average. If you took 18-year-old boys then, 18-year-old boys now, it's 2x, 3x higher back then, just naturally, no optimization. So testosterone is super important. Your brain is, your neurons, your microglial cells, your astrocytes are full of testosterone receptors. That sounds important, right? Now, for all the women watching, guess what? Your brain also has testosterone receptors and progesterone receptors. So if your doctor says testosterone is just for men, your doctor's an idiot. If your doctor says, oh, you're past the point of menopause, so you don't need progesterone anymore, then why are those receptors in your brain? What's making those receptors happy now? What are you thinking? What are you talking about? So women really get the shaft on this. Men are a little more apt to reach out for testosterone optimization, but a lot of women are like, no, they just said this fake estrogen's all I needed. And women are suffering after the age of 50, 60, 70 because their doctor told them that was either dangerous or to not do that. That's not a female hormone. Really pisses me off. Now, back to testosterone. So your brain is full of testosterone receptors. And if your testosterone levels, total and free, if they're not where they need to be, it's not just libido, it's not just erectile dysfunction, it's every part of your body's not going to function as well. You're not going to recover from workouts, you're not going to recover from injuries. Of course, testosterone is a huge deal. But the mental health aspect of it is part that nobody wants to talk about. It's like that's the most magical part of medicine and physiology is, mental health. No, I don't talk about that because that's magical, right? That we leave that to the shaman or the witch doctor. No, your brain is a hunk of meat just like the rest of you. It has the same blood supply as the rest of you. It has the same receptors. Yes, your mental health is going to improve. I guarantee you your outlook is better. Your motivation, the ability to love and to be patient is better.
That's another one. It's, the stereotype is, you're going to get angry. And it's like, I feel calmer and more rooted than ever.
Yes.
Like I feel unshakable.
I can tell.
There you go.
Not that you were ever aggro, but you're definitely.
So independent feedback that he's more chill with higher levels of testosterone. And for most doctors and most patients, they're like, no, it'll make you aggressive. It'll make you an asshole. Totally false. The perfect man is the man that could hurt you if he needed to, could destroy you intellectually if he needed to, but yet has the calmness and the self-control to not do either of those things. In my estimation, that's the definition of a perfect man.
The educated barbarian. I heard him
Educated
called.
and dangerous, but also very polite and very civil and able to hold back those animal urges unless they're called for. And he pulls out the tool from the toolbox that is needed in that moment, whatever that happens to be. So that's exactly why you feel so much more motivated and so much more mentally clear, is because now your neurons are firing on all cylinders again.
So do you then suggest people, well, I guess if you need it, you get your levels tested.
That's
and
right.
then if you're insufficient, then you should get on it, stay on it forever kind of thing. Because I'm still in this phase where, like, we're going to have more kids. So, like, I was like, I'll probably come off of it and do.
But why? Because they told you that it could affect your fertility.
Well, that's what I've heard. Yeah, that's what I'm
Right.
told.
Now,
Is that not-
think that through.
Campfire stuff here again.
Yeah, I don't know.
Think that through. When you were 18,
That
what was your
doesn't make
testosterone level versus now at 40? You
good.
said you're 40? Is that
I'll
what
be
you said?
40 in 2 weeks,
40.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Gotcha. So when you were 18, you could look at a girl and knock her
Oh
out.
my, yeah.
Literally, you just look across the room and she's pregnant.
Yeah.
But now
Can't hug her.
we can't hug, right? But now at 39, 40, somehow it's going to affect your fertility if you put it back up to where it was when you were 18.
Wow.
Think
so
that
that's
through.
much.
How does that make any sense? Now, there's probably some truth that if you believe in the Lyle Alzado model of testosterone, I don't know if you remember him. He used to be an LA Raider that was just like a deadly machine. But he took testosterone injections illegally, routinely, and his testosterone was probably 2,000, 2,500.
Right. Like the pro bodybuilders.
Wound up
and
having
stuff.
a brain tumor, died prematurely. But yeah, that probably affected his fertility. It obviously affected his personality because he was literally known as an assassin on the football field. But he also wound up with a brain tumor as well because he was inappropriately doing it. But if you bring it back up to your ideal level, that's not going to affect your fertility at all. That doesn't make any sense.
Oh, that's good news.
What is the ideal level? So I just got mine checked. I'm 41 for the first time in my entire life. I'm over 1,000 on my total, and I'm 120 on the free, and the optimal is 150 to 225 on the free is what they say.
Oh, what's the optimal or what's the normal and optimal for the total testosterone? That's the one that most
I'm
docs-
high on that one. They say that.
Yeah,
is
dude, you watch this guy. Don't turn
No,
your back
I
on
know.
him.
We're taking him to the
700 to
gym.
1,100. is-
Okay, that's
And
optimal.
This is optimal per
But what's normal?
the
Does it tell you
functional
the
medicine
normal
guys we
range?
work with. I think
Yeah.
they have
This
a
is
different
optimal from FitScript. I put this into ChatGPT,
gotcha,
and
okay.
ChatGPT
Yeah.
said that I'm in the
You are.
0.01%
That's
of a
freaking amazing
41-year-old.
without supplementation. But
But if your free T, because mine was not that high, it's like 850.
Yeah.
But they said if free T is low, that's all that matters.
well, sort of, but it's more complicated than that. But effectively, yes.
Yeah.
But listen to this. This is going to make you want to cry for all the other men out there. Okay. LabCorp and Quest are the two biggest labs. Okay. When you go to your doctor and say, "Hey, doc, I think my testosterone's low. Will you check it?" He's going to just check a total testosterone typically. LabCorp and Quest say that if your testosterone is above 249, that you are normal.
That's total.
Total
Yeah,
testosterone.
that's what ChatGPT was telling me. I was walking around
So
the house telling
if a guy's got a total testosterone of 251, his doctor says, "Oh no, your testosterone's fine. You got no problem."
Wow.
You
That is
imagine how many millions of men are out there running around with a testosterone under 300. Now, back 10 years ago, the lab cutoff was 350. When testosterone was starting to get popular, then all of a sudden it was 300. Now it's 249. That's the cut. 250. That's the cutoff. Did men evolve and change? And now used to under 350 was bad. Now it's under 250. What's going on? And there's all these conspiracies out there in different kind of subsets of experts. Like, why would a society want all these low testosterone men? And immediately you're like, I can
being
think
Bitcoiners, it's
I can
obvious.
think of some people who would love it if all men had a testosterone of 250.
Yeah.
And
Very compliant.
They lived on rice and beans, because I want to talk about what diet does to testosterone. And lived on rice and beans. They're high blood sugar, high insulin, high levels of inflammation, low testosterone. You're going to be able to drag your ass to work, half-ass do your job, drag yourself home and get in the recliner.
Pay your taxes.
Pay your taxes, right?
Not bitch about it.
And go to Walmart or at least DoorDash and buy some stuff.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be a cog in the economic wheel, but
Have
you're
less
not.
kids.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, okay, I see where you're going. Now let me tell you what I've seen, and this is anecdotal, but it's thousands of data points. We have a private community that we have about 8,000 people from all over the world. Half of them are men. And they all love lab work, so they're always checking stuff. So typically they've had their total testosterone checked before they join because I've talked about it a lot. Then they get in the group and they start eating either mostly red meat or nothing but red meat. And the 3 recommendations is eat lots of meat from me, eat lots of meat, and go outside and play, which means each month, at the end of each month, I want you to be a little bit stronger and a little bit faster. Now, that means you're going to have to exert yourself. You're going to have to lift heavy things. You're going to have to run fast. You know, your exertion can be anything that gets you sweating out of breath. It can be on the farm or in the gym or in the bedroom. I don't really care, but I want you sweating out of breath several times a week. We've had guys raise their total testosterone anywhere from 50 to 400 points.
Wow.
Just by fixing their diet and going outside and play.
Right.
Lift
The
heavy,
sunlight
run
too
fast.
helps.
Sunlight
Yeah, of course.
probably has a huge thing. I know you've interviewed Dr. Cruz, and I'm a huge fan of his work. Don't agree with him on everything, but I think what he's talking about is super important.
Yeah.
But yeah, all that together, the red meat, the lifting heavy, the running fast, the sunlight, all that stuff, you can raise your testosterone anywhere from 50 to 400 points just with diet and lifestyle alone. But nobody's ever told that guy running around with a 251 that it's low to start with, so he doesn't even know he needs to have an intervention. Yeah. He thinks his testosterone is normal because that's the story his doctor told him around that campfire.
It's crazy, man. And then just thinking, I mean, again, it's early days for me, like week 4 or 5, but I feel like this is going to increase my earnings potential so much. Like I'm just so on and like.
Yeah. So, I mean, he was already high T to start with compared to the average.
Yeah.
But now think about the powers that be, and I don't want to get conspiratorial here.
Oh, we love conspiratorial.
Think about the powers that be, the people in charge, the elected and appointed. Do you really, especially if you're up to some shenanigans economically and governmentally and right, do you want a bunch of this guy running around who's 100% on, 100% clear, thinking like a human's supposed to think, sharp, clear, focused, forward-looking? Right? Do you really?
I'm honored.
Do you really want millions of him running around if you're trying to kind of tweak the system and run the system and control the system and maybe milk the system and basically collect rent from everybody on multiple levels, not just money?
Something I've shared before, it's like the 3 greatest threats to the state, you know, a unified populace, a critical thinking populace, and high testosterone armed men. Like these 3 things are very hard to govern, right?
And so now, if you just with your theory you just said, when we start looking at society, what are the things that seemingly are either being minimized, pushed down either forcefully or gently with the nudge? Have you read Nudge? You never read that book. Okay. Yeah. It's just like a gentle but yet if you do that at scale, millions of men are affected, right? Oh, don't eat so much red meat. Red meat's bad. It'll give you a heart attack, give you cancer, blah, blah, blah. So now you got men avoiding meat. Oh, you don't want to have a gun. I mean, that's barbaric. What are you talking about? What are you, from Tennessee? Why do you want to own a gun, right? Okay, so he's unarmed. He's got low testosterone, but he also has brain fog. He has high insulin, high A1C, high inflammation. He's inflamed. He's low T. Yeah. He's overweight. He's got at least a belly, if not just.
And now we're not even sure if he's a he. Could be a he or she. We don't know.
But now wait a minute. So here in the last half a decade, now gender is suddenly fluid. It's like, it doesn't matter if he doesn't look like the stereotypical man. He's whatever he wants to be. You leave him alone.
Right.
That guy got kicked out of the campfire. Died alone in the woods.
He would have died alone in the woods.
We'll talk about conspiratorial. I think that whole wokeism thing, like what is a man, what is a woman, is to attack basic definitions and mitigate our ability to come into unity, right? To have rational
of course.
discourse. If we can't agree on basic things like what is a man, what is a woman,
Right.
then we're reduced to the domain of physical force
Absolutely.
where the state is dominant.
Exactly. And even 1 + 1 is 2 was called
I
in the
know.
question. Maybe that's racist. Maybe that's literally, it's like, what? If we don't have mathematics, then we can't have any of the sciences. So where does that leave us? It's, and so I told you earlier before we started that Nisha and I moved from the city
right.
deep in the woods.
The city being Nashville.
Yes,
Yeah.
for just such foolishness as we're talking about. I'm
Yes.
like, you know what? Let's move back to the woods. And
Yeah.
she's like, you know what? I approve that message. Let's go raise our babies in the woods.
When I was there a couple of years ago, I mentioned I lived there for a year. I'd left Tennessee for 14 years and came back for a year. And I was in Nashville. I lived in Green Hills.
Yeah.
And near the center, it was a little too many blue-haired, purple-haired people. I was like, something's changed here. This isn't the Nashville that I left.
Yeah. And Nashville, compared to other cities, is still
great.
great.
Yeah.
But there's a subset that believe that all things are subjective, that there is no such thing as facts. And I'm not okay with that. Because to me, that leads to either tyranny or chaos. And I really don't want my children to grow up in either.
Yeah.
So we moved to the woods. And I told you, we're so far from civilization that even the zombies will starve before they get to our farm. Yeah. And we still have Wi-Fi. We still have new cell phones.
Yeah.
I love all the modern stuff, but I need some distance.
You got
and
space.
I've got scopes.
Yeah.
And
Chickens and acres.
I got chickens and sheep and acreage, and I've got a rifle with a scope on it. So just mind your own business.
Love it. The farm life, I assume that is your physical fitness.
Daily. And that's all I do. I don't go to the gym. I don't have a gym
That
membership.
shit's so good for you, man.
I'm out there, and I make the farm work hard on purpose.
Yeah.
So that it can be my workout. So I don't have to waste time driving to town to go to the gym.
Yeah.
I'll just cut trees in such a way that this trunk is just barely light enough for me to get it up.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing squats, I'm doing kettlebells and I'm doing shoulder presses, I'm doing all the stuff, but I'm not going to a gym.
It's so much more manly, honestly.
And I'm doing it in the sun.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it out with the blues and the greens, which I think is also a big deal.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal.
But the blues and the greens.
So I interviewed a doctor who's like triple board certified, Dr. Schwelt. And we were talking about infrared and near infrared from the sun.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And so several things he taught me I didn't know is one, that the infrared and near infrared it goes straight through clothes like you're not even wearing clothes. Yeah. It can go through up to 7 layers of clothing. And so even in the dead of winter, you still need to get your ass outside.
Wow.
Because you can still get the benefit of that infrared. The other thing that he taught me that I'd never thought of, but it makes perfect sense, is the green of trees reflects the red specifically. And you can actually take photographs, infrared photographs of like a forest, and it looks like it's glowing in the dark because it's reflecting all the red light. And so it's not just the sun, but it's the reflection of the sun, the infrared spectrum, off all the green plants.
Wow.
And I'll just tell you, when I'm out in the pasture of the woods with my shirt off and my chainsaw, and it's a blue sky day and the sun's shining and all the trees are green, I don't feel better than that. The only thing that makes me happier and feel better than that is when I'm surrounded by my wife and kids.
Yeah. That's amazing. Dude.
That's it. I mean, it's heaven.
Also, I don't agree with Jack Cruz on everything. Not that I would really challenge him on the science too much, but he has a thing about the biophotons when the sunlight's going through the trees, that's exceptionally good for us.
Or is it just the infrared bouncing off the green?
Or maybe it's that. I don't exactly. I wanted to ask you, just because you brought it up, but like red light therapy. I have a red light sauna here at the house. I think it's 960 nanometer. I could be wrong about that.
That's one of the good wavelengths. Yeah.
Man, I sit in that thing 30 minutes a day. Holy fucking shit. It is so good. And I look 5 or 10 years younger every day that I do it. It's like crazy fountain of youth. And there's all these studies about the benefits. So I just,
there's a ton of research about specific wavelengths of near infrared and infrared. Here's the thing, because a big part of my message is to people who can't afford stuff, right? They can't afford $42 a pound grass finished ribeye. They can't afford a $1,000 red light unit. If you take off your shirt and go out in the sun, guess what? You're getting the exact same wavelength for free. And so you're getting all the other wavelengths, but you're getting that wavelength. The sun is a complete spectrum.
thing,
It's
yeah.
all of it. So just go outside and play. That's why that's one of my foundational pieces of advice. Eat lots of red meat, go outside and play. And I mean that literally, because you're going to get all that.
Yeah.
But now, if you can afford that,
Right.
then yeah, definitely do that. Buy
I
the
do
good
both.
beef.
I mean, I get this. I try to get sun.
Sure.
I'm usually like run or walk on the beach or sit in the
Yes.
yard and ground.
Jack loves that barefoot
Yeah.
on the beach.
Also, the ball sunning, man. That's amazing.
See, I can't.
Oh, I've
No.
been doing it since I hit
You got the
Miami.
acreage?
I talked to Nisha about it. She said, if you do that, I don't know if we're still okay. Because just the mental image of you
Just walk an
sun in
acre
your,
away
sun
in
in
your
your
privacy.
taint, I just can't. She said, I can't. Even if I don't see you, if I know you're doing it, I don't know if we'll be okay.
You got to try it, dude.
I mean, okay.
It feels
I'll try
good.
It. I'll
It
try
feels
it.
good.
It lights it up.
Yeah.
It lights it up,
Literally.
dude.
Okay, I'll get it.
does.
Now, do you have any peer-reviewed research on ball
I got
sunning?
nothing. I got
Okay.
nothing.
No.
But I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah.
I'll take your anecdotal recommendation, and I might experiment with
Yeah.
it. But I'll have to clear it with Nisha. I don't know.
Ancestral. I mean,
Yeah,
you're those,
I don't
those
know.
balls
I
were
don't
getting
know.
sun
I
a
feel
long
like
time
that could
ago.
have. I feel like that could have gotten you kicked out of the tribe if you were laying on your back with your legs in the air and there was not
no,
a.
I don't
No,
do that
I
one.
just lay, you know, and I when I'm in the pool,
Yeah.
I just make sure that I'm naked in the pool.
Yeah.
You know, and
I just-
sometimes I'll lay there on the lounger,
Let the sun shine
not
down.
legs up, trying to get the
Yeah.
butthole.
Because that's what I
No,
saw
just-
Dave ask me to do. You don't do that. Oh, okay.
I've
All
actually
right.
never done that.
Okay.
I sit either in the wooden chair in the yard and read, or I'll lay on the towel on my stomach.
Yeah.
And so,
With
yeah.
your sack out, and just let it.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, just completely nude.
Yeah. Okay, I can get on board with that.
Yeah, and I don't know.
But
I
that
mean,
upside down, bear crawl. I don't know. If
I don't
got-
do happy baby into the
Okay,
sun.
okay.
Butterfly upside down reading your book.
Okay, I withdraw. Then I'll try it.
Okay, yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
So we're talking offline a little bit about grounding.
Yeah.
You know, just getting your feet on the earth.
Bare feet.
Yeah, and I don't know, what are you like? Obviously, it has something to do with our electromagnetic relationship to the world. What
Yeah.
is grounding, and is it good for us?
So I'm about to say something that will cause every mainstream doctor to unfollow or block me. I think grounding is absolutely a real thing. It makes perfect sense to me. Me and my wife and kids do it all the time, every day. But there's not any meaningful research to support it whatsoever. Now, doing the study in anthropology I've done and archaeology and history, we've only been wearing shoes that insulate us from the earth for just a few hundred years. Not even a few thousand, just a few hundred. And so even, I think the first shoe was 18,000 years ago that we currently have in the record, 20,000, something like that. But back then, shoes were 100% of the time made of reeds or some kind of skin or some kind of plant fiber woven. So if that's the least bit damp, guess what? It still conducts.
Grounding. Yeah.
You're still grounding, right? Even if you're wearing shoes. And then early in even pioneer America, they were furs, they were skins. So you were grounded with the earth. So it was only with basically the invention of Nikes and Reeboks, all of a sudden that we started, or I guess Converse probably they're the culprit, that now we're physically insulated from the Mother Earth. And that has a big deal to do with the electron exchange. And so I think there's something to it. I think it's a big deal. I practice it regularly, but I need a good scientist to design a good research study to prove that it's a thing. Because until then, being a real doctor, I can't just tell everybody, yes, the research is clear, you need to go ground, because the research is just wonky. I don't know why they designed the studies like they do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Dr. Clint Ober wrote a book, Earthing. Have you
Read
dug
it.
on that a little
Read
bit?
it.
Yeah.
Yep, read it. I've read every book written about grounding, every research paper written, not many, but I've read them. And I mean, I can think of a mechanism where it works. I can think physiologically, yep, that makes sense. but it's like no researcher's interested in designing, because you know why. It's going to cost $5 million to do the study, and there's no patent at
Nothing
the
to
end of
sell.
that. There's nothing to sell. So then no department chair is going to go, you should go research grounding. That's never going to happen. So until we have somebody like Elon say, I think this grounding's real, I'm just going to give a guy $10 million and let him go prove or disprove it. That's how we'll know for sure. But I mean, until then, I believe in it, but I can't prove it.
Yeah, anecdotally, again, I get with the gut imbalance, whatever I have had, it's like sometimes when I eat carbs, I'll get this puffiness. But then if I go sit in the yard, feet on grass, 45 minutes, like it'll go down. I also notice when I do cardio on the beach, like doing sprints on the beach, the inflammation collapses. Like, I don't know what else that could be.
Better than if you were doing sprints and shoes in the gym.
Yeah, if I go to the track in my shoes, it's like I don't get that effect.
So was it the sun? Was it the bare feet on the ground?
Well, it can't be the sun, because I can go to the track outside running in tennis shoes, and I'm not getting that effect. But if I go do it on the beach, then I get a whole different effect.
I think it's a real thing, but I just can't prove it currently.
Do you think there's any merit to being grounded insulates you from the rogue EMFs and the Wi-Fi? And we're subjected to so many radio waves. Again,
I think that all of the electromagnetic radiation, the artificial electromagnetic radiation is probably a thing. Virtually all of the research was designed in such a way to show that it's not a thing, because of the people who sponsored the research, right? Who were forced to research it, and they're like, okay, yeah, we'll research it. So I think it probably is a thing, but we currently don't know how big of a thing it is. And so I try to limit all of that stuff. Blue light's another great example. As we said off recording, the sun has all the blue spectrum. It's full of it, and the red, and every other color. But when the sun goes down, before 1,000 years ago, you had zero source of blue light after the sun went down. There was no such thing as that. Maybe fireflies. I don't know. I haven't looked at the spectrum of their buds to see what that is. But they literally didn't exist. So you've got the ancestral principle, the evolutionary principle. So immediately, and so at my house, all screens go red as soon as the sun goes down, and that changes from day to day, and so we've got all of our devices set that when the sun goes down, we shift to red. Is that a huge deal? It's probably a 10% deal. It's not an 80% deal like your diet is, but I think it probably matters a significant amount. Probably more for some people than others.
Sure. Do you think in general we are, my thesis here is like, again, I mentioned it earlier, right? We're coming out of Newtonian physics, we're in Einsteinian physics, but all the rest of science hasn't caught up to that reality. We're still kind of in this materialism paradigm, but obviously if it is all energy, frequency, and vibration, then the light matters a lot. Do you expect that to continue? Like, you think we are headed into kind of a quantum biology paradigm?
I do, not in the way a lot of people use that term, but I kind of intimated earlier about, we were talking about cells, and I said, but then when you get to the subcellular level, mitochondria and all the other organelles, because you're quickly getting into the quantum space, when you get that small, I think it's going to turn out to be everything eventually, like it's all quantum, right? But currently, we don't know what that means.
Right.
There are a lot of people with a lot of theories, and any time somebody tries to tie quantum in with, omniscience or mind reading or any of that foolishness, it's like, no, this is a big deal, but it's not kabuki theater. This is super important. But I'll tell you, I think right now, with just what we do know about human physiology and biochemistry, if you take away all the false campfire stories and just what we truly know, it's too much for any one mind to contain.
Of course.
And I think we're quickly approaching the place where there's no one human on earth who can understand just physiology at the cellular level. Because when you start factoring in all the organelles, including the mitochondria, which is what everybody wants to talk about, but there's many others that are very important, it gets out of hand. There's so much that there's just no way one mind can contain it. And I think if we're ever to understand human physiology, and especially molecular biology. It'll take AI. We'll have to have some kind of super intelligent large language model to be able to hold all this in one mind at the same time, because it's just too much. It's too much. It's too deep. And the problem is as biologists keep going deeper, you would think that we'd be approaching the end. We'd be approaching the smallest molecule. We'd be approaching the smallest organelle, kind of the root. We keep getting further away. The deeper we look, the further the answers are away. And I think that's quite telling. I don't know if you're religious or not.
I don't know either.
Right. And I was in that same boat for a long time, but the deeper that I would go into mathematics and physics and especially molecular biology, the deeper you go into anything, the closer you should be getting to the bottom.
Yeah.
Common sense, right? The closer you should be getting to the ultimate answer. And every leader in molecular biology, biochemistry, math, physics, the guys that have went the deepest, they're like, no, the end's much further away than we ever anticipated.
Yeah.
The answer's not any closer. It's actually further away.
Yes.
And that's actually brought me to a spiritual place where I wasn't before. When I was younger and knew less, I thought I knew it all. But now I realize, no, the leaders in the world in that field say, I think there's a God, because we should be closer to the answer now, and we're no closer. We're actually light years further away from ultimate answers now. That's hard to reconcile as a mortal.
I completely agree. There's so many perspectives on this that I love. There's something, the quote is like, the first sip from the glass of the natural sciences tends one towards atheism, but by the bottom of the glass you find God.
Absolutely.
And I think Robert Pirsig too is saying that, the more answers you have, you actually generates more questions exponentially than you can ever have. So like there is no final answer. Basically you run into the limitations of knowledge very quickly, and then everything beyond that is like mysticism.
And the size of the electron. And then what are you going to do?
Right.
Because we can't go any smaller. We can't. How are we going to image that? How are we going to study that if you can't even see
so
it?
You get below, was it Planck length, right? Or it's the wavelength of light. It's like, well, you can't even go lower than that.
So what do you do?
Yeah.
But even with those hard limits, we should still be closer. But the experts are uniformly saying, no, we're further away now.
Yeah,
the more we know, the further the answers are away.
Right.
That's weird to me, and because the first sip of an analogy, and this is not the God and the unknown, because that's what a lot of atheists will say. Like, of course, if you don't know something, you're going to say therefore God. That's not what these people are saying. They're saying, no, you don't understand, tiny mind. We're saying mere mortal. We're saying that it's not just that we don't have the answer, therefore God. We're saying, no, the answer's 100x further away now.
Yes.
Therefore, maybe God.
It's a strange thing to talk about, because it's almost like that reductionist paradigm where we think we can get closer to the sub element to explain the whole is moving us further away, basically.
Exactly.
It's like you're not...
And that's not how it's supposed to work.
Right.
If we're in a materialistic...
And that's the thing, is we're probably
accidental world, then that's not how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be able to find the base wavelength, the base particle, the base something that everything has evolved from, but you don't find that.
We probably have bad metaphor again.
100%. It's our paradigm. Yeah. Your paradigm can blind you to the truth quicker than anything else. It's how you approach it. If you're coming from the wrong angle, it's impossible for you to see what's right in front of your face. 100%.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the 9-dot problem? Have you seen this?
I think so.
It's like it's a 3x3 dot matrix, 3, 3, 3, and they say the challenge is like take four straight lines and connect all the dots.
Yeah.
And you have to go outside the box, is where think outside the box comes from, to solve it. But like people, unless they've seen it before, they can't solve it, basically, because they impose this structure.
And it's independent of IQ, no matter how smart you are. Because you're constrained by the box. Even though the box is not drawn, the dots implicate the box. And then you put yourself in the box. And that's the classic story of humanity.
Yes, the self-limiting belief kind of situation. But it's so interesting to think about. I don't know. I love talking about it. Ultimately, it's like, and it does, I think you just end up in this place, I think of radical epistemic humility. You're like, it's Socrates. Where he's like so he's the
Very
wisest
healthy.
man in Athens because he knows what he cannot and does not know, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know what to do with that exactly. So you just end up, okay, well then I need to be a good example for my children and like just
Exactly.
live
Well, you
and enjoy
end
life.
up very, very intelligent, because I don't think Socrates was saying, I've learned all this, and that means I now truly know I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
He said I'm much, much smarter is what I think he was implying, but yet the answers got further away.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the mainstream cutting edge scientists are seeing today is like, God, the answers keep going 10x further away every time we discover a 1x way to look at something. The ultimate answers just scurry away 10x, 100x. And I think that's what he was implying by his famous quote.
Yeah.
He didn't mean I'm getting dumber.
Yeah.
He meant I'm way smarter, but it still doesn't matter.
That's the thing. Yeah, it's respecting the limitations of knowledge or what we can know. And man, I don't know. You almost get to this place of, they call it aporia, right? We're just speechless. Like, I don't know what else to say. It's like, it's interesting to think about. But
It gives you a new appreciation for the rednecks and hillbillies. Who
Yes,
just said, who gives
yeah.
a damn? Let's just have a beer, and what it is, and don't change it if it ain't broke.
yes.
That's kind of a great philosophy,
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
unless you really enjoy the kind of the esoteric, intelligence thing that you and we love to learn and
Yeah.
try to figure stuff out. Or you could just have a beer and say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. That's the thing. Is like, I do enjoy that, but then I end up appreciating the redneck aphorisms so much more. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, speaking of things moving further away, we got one thing coming closer to us, and that's the food pyramid.
Yes.
I'm curious your thoughts on that.
So the new food pyramid that came out is going to be in effect for the next 5 years based on the new dietary guidelines, which are supposedly will be in effect from 2025 until 2030 before they're supposed to be looked at again. I predict that's not going to be the case, and we can talk about why if you'd like. And so basically, I think that it's an inverted pyramid as kind of a snark head nod to South Park. I don't know if you saw
I saw
that.
the clip,
I think that's literally, they're just like, you know what, let's make it upside down.
Yeah.
That'll be cool. And they did. But so it depends on how you look at the new food pyramid. If you look at it kind of with an Eastern eye from the center and then out, it looks like you should eat plant-based. And a lot of people in Western society miss that because we tend to read from top to bottom, left to right. And if you look at the food pyramid that way, the very first thing you see is a steak, red meat, and ground beef and a chicken with the skin on and the bone in, and butter and whole milk. But I think that's what they were going for, but I think there's a big chance it'll be misread by a lot of people because a lot of people they look at the center out instead of left to right, top to bottom. But the website makes it very clear. If you go to realfood.gov, you start scrolling, the very first image is a steak, red meat. And I think that's exactly right. I'm still sitting here in a little bit of disbelief that that's the truth of the matter. I cannot believe that our federal government did that. I'm very happy that they did. I actually hope people will follow the food pyramid now. If you read it from left to right, top to bottom, the top left is a carnivore diet.
Yeah.
If you read from left to right at the top, that's keto. If you go down to the second line and read a little bit, that's low carb. You see my point? And so it's literally what I've been saying since 2017 in a inverted pyramid.
Yeah, you know what's it's such a trip seeing this because I remember as a kid you see this pyramid and somehow you think again authority, like, oh, someone did a lot of work to come up with this thing and this is the way you're supposed to eat. And then I get a little bit older, I'm like, oh, this thing is complete and utter bullshit. Now I see them flip it and I'm like, isn't it ridiculous that people are looking to the federal government for advice on what to eat? Like they're living on a tax farm asking the slave master what I should eat, master. Like it's
exactly.
So I don't know. I like it's good news in a way,
Yep.
but then my more conspiratorial Bitcoiner self is like, why does this exist at all? Like this should not be coming from the government at all.
And that's why I'm so shocked, happily shocked that they actually this is real.
Yeah.
But also that brings up my other point that I don't think this will make it till 2030. I don't know what's going to happen, but there's no way that they're going to let red meat have the spotlight for the next 5 years.
Bill Gates is probably just fucking what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I'm trying to get rid of 7.5 billion people and make a bunch of money while I do it.
Looks like Mr. Burns on The Simpsons.
Yeah, I was cute.
But what the average person should know, what the average person needs to take away from this is the written part of the guidelines, 9 or 10 pages long. They still have the 10% saturated fat for calories. That's still in the written. Okay.
Right.
Now they lowered the amount of added sugar that's okay for children from 10% of total calories a day down to 2%, which is huge. That's a big victory. But why is the 10% saturated fat per day as calories? Why is that still there? Because if you try to follow the visual pyramid, you're going to max out with your first snack, not even your first meal, and then you can't eat any more red meat for the rest of the day. So I think that's evidence that Big Pharma and Big Food were all over this thing with their lobbyists trying to keep it. I think that's a backdoor that's been put in. Yeah. And because here's the thing, the average registered dietitian, they still have to follow the written part. You can look at the pyramid all day, but they got to follow that 10% cap on saturated fat. And so every meal plan they design for kindergartners, preschool, anybody in school, anybody in the hospital, anybody in a nursing home, it has to have no more than 10% total fat a day by calories. They can't follow that pyramid. And so the visual's great. It makes people like me and you very happy, but then the written part is like, why? How would you even leave that in?
So this there are people legally compelled to follow this thing.
Absolutely.
Okay. See, I didn't even know how intense it was. I thought it was just a guideline.
So let's just take a school, an elementary school. They have a registered dietitian on staff or contracted. She designs the meal plan for the month or the school year or whatever. She has to follow the guidelines. If it's found out that school's not following the guidelines, they could lose all of their federal funding. Yeah. And so this actually happened in our little tiny town in Tennessee. There were a couple of old lunch ladies that had been there forever. Once a week, they would cook the kids real bacon and real eggs and biscuits and gravy once a week, just to, because a lot of these kids are super poor. They never get real food. Yeah. Somebody turned them in.
That's unfortunate.
And the school almost they had to stop doing that because obviously they were violating the saturated fat guidelines, and they were going to give all these kids a heart attack. And so the principal went. He's like, y'all cannot do that anymore. Somebody reported it. Stop. Do not do that again. So they have to feed the kids off the Cisco truck, or they'll get in trouble. And so nothing really changed because the 10% cap's still there on saturated fat. So people who are at their liberty, like you and me, we can eat whatever we want. But if you're in any kind of institutional setting that gets federal money,
of course,
you got to cap the saturated fat at 10%, and that's a big problem.
Well, thank God. I feel like we're moving from a world where people follow the food pyramid to where they follow guys like you on YouTube to get some truth, because it still just doesn't reconcile with me that a taxing authority publishes a pyramid that everyone follows. Yeah. It's like the only reason they're able to run that pyramid is because they're running the US dollar pyramid scheme. That's basically
exactly right.
That's the real pyramid that matters.
Exactly right.
So,
and more people are going to be pulling their kids out of school. My wife and I have been talking since before we had our first child. They're not going to school. It's not a school. It's a government indoctrination camp.
Yeah. Please strongly consider doing that. Both of our babies are homeschooled. Beckett's 6 years old, and he's now in 3rd grade.
Wow.
Okay. So if you think that public school's holding your kid back, yeah, you're right. They are. And so they have to, because if you've got 30 kids in a class,
sure,
and you're trying to be inclusive and you're trying to, then your kid's getting held back.
And your kids are probably getting so much. I assume you're obviously at home a lot, working on the farm. Absolutely. They get to see you in action. Yeah. So
Nisha's mom's actually retired from teaching. She's a teacher, and so she's like, I'm retiring. I'm going to teach these two. And we're like,
that's amazing.
Absolutely. So great. And so they're on the farm, they're in the creek, they're in the woods. It's a real education kids used to get. And people think, if you want your kid to be an Einstein, you have to, do all these. No, Einstein literally played in the woods and played with sticks. Yeah. He didn't have anything. He hadn't, right? He started doing some stuff when he got older, but when he was little, he just went out and played in the woods like every other kid. Yeah. And that's how he became Einstein.
Yeah, his great theories came from like what, riding the bike and sitting on a train and all,
falling off a tree. Yeah, all that. Yeah.
Dude, that is so awesome for your kids.
I'm really stoked.
Really,
We'll never, ever send them to public school, no matter what.
Yeah, amen to that.
Yes.
We've probably kept you long enough, man. This has been a damn good one.
This was real good.
Really good.
Excellent.
The audience is going to love it.
Yeah. Thank you for doing the work you do. I mean, people need this information, right? Because like I see it a lot in the South, people are indoctrinated, right? It's like, my doctor said this, I like sweet tea, Crisco, and it's like, it's really, really bad.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
But there's a subset of indoctrination in every society. So if you go to elite New England, they're also indoctrinated. It's just a little different flavor of indoctrination.
Yeah.
And so you're right. It's a huge problem, and I fight it constantly. Some days it feels like bashing your head against the wall. Monetarily, you're probably the same way. It's like, oh, magic internet money.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I give up.
Yeah. Yeah. Our favorite trope is, we're anti-federal government. Like, well, who's going to build the roads? And just like, oh my God, here we go.
Because nobody's ever thought of that before.
Yeah. Exactly. Any closing words of wisdom for the audience? And if not, where can people find you on the internet?
So my words of wisdom is to cut out all added sugar and most naturally occurring sugar. Cut out all grains and beans. Cut them all out. They're slave food. They're not optimization food. Cut out all the vegetable seed oils. Fill up at least half, if not all of your plate with meat, eggs, and fish. Number 5, very important, go outside and play. And I mean that. Go outside and play vigorously, often, get sweaty and out of breath. Live like a human. You want to mimic and echo our future behavior and our past behavior and our past diet. Doesn't mean you have to go live in a cave and wipe your butt with your hand. It just means the stuff that goes inside your body, that matters. That matters more than anything else you do. Food matters more than supplements. Food matters more than red light therapy. Food matters more than any doctor's appointment. There is no doctor that can make you healthy if you're eating junk that makes you sick. You have to fix the 80% root cause first. Everything else will fall into place. I've got over 1,900 YouTube videos you can watch for free. If I'm feeling snarky, you'll find me on X. If I'm feeling loving and caring, you'll find me on Facebook and Instagram. And if you want to find me Bitcoin aware, you can find me on Nostr.
Okay, good for you.
I'm there. And so I go to social media because that's where the people are. That is the campfire that we all meet around. And I wish everybody would behave better on social media. But hey, there's no feedback. There's no repercussions. So currently people think they can get away with whatever. But I'll see you on social media because that's the campfire. We all discuss what it is we think we learned and what we think we know. And I'm going to keep actively working on the journey of being in search of a proper human diet.
Well, thank you, sir, man.
Yeah.
Dynamite conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been an honor.
Pleasure to host a fellow Tennessean.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you,
Go
Ken.
Vols.
Go Vols. We lock our doors, we encrypt our hard drives, and we use strong passwords. But most people leave one thing wide open: their phone line. SIM swap attacks are one of the fastest growing methods of digital theft. In minutes, a hacker can clone your accounts, reset your passwords, and drain your life. Unfortunately, this is not science fiction. It happens every single day. Efani is the only mobile service protection designed exclusively to protect you from SIM swap attacks. Efani offers military-grade encryption on their product and offers up to $5 million of SIM swap insurance. And to date, there have been exactly 0 SIM swaps on any of Efani's over 50,000 protected accounts. So you don't need to live in fear, you just need to protect your weakest link. Go to efani.com/breedlove to secure your phone line today. Again, that's Efani, EFANI.com/breedlove. For the past 25 years, I've been reading roughly one book per week. Almost entirely difficult nonfiction books, the kind that really shift your thinking. Books on physics, money, power, psychology, spirituality, and philosophy. The real stuff. But I get it. Most people don't have time to read 50 books per year. So I hand-selected my favorite nonfiction books and distilled each one of them into a course that you can take in 50 to 100 times faster than it would take you to read the entire book. Each course gives you the key insights, mental models, and frameworks that matter. We launched with 15 book courses, and we are building toward a library of 100 by the end of year 1. So if you are a seeker of truth, wisdom, and personal growth, then my book course is for you. To sign up, go to course.breedlove.io. Again, that's course.breedlove.io. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, click here to find more just like it, and here to find our most recent episode. Also, make sure to like this video to help shine light on the corruption of money, and be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay connected.